Jake the dog is one of the most unusual emotional anchors in Adventure Time. Not because he is loud or intensely expressive, but because almost everything meaningful about him comes from a quiet center inside him. At first glance, he seems easy to read. He jokes, relaxes, naps, and eats with an ease that looks simple, almost carefree. But beneath that surface is a complex emotional blueprint, a kind of inner rhythm that guides his choices, his relationships, and his worldview. This inner rhythm is calm and flexible, shaped by experience and memory, shaped by loyalty and love, shaped by a willingness to let life flow rather than resist it. When you slow down and look closely, Jake becomes one of the deepest emotional figures in Ooh. Jake's personality appears to be defined by ease. He stretches through life with a patience that contrasts sharply with the volatility around him. Even in dangerous or uncertain moments, he finds a way to remain grounded. His flexibility is not just physical, it is emotional. Jake absorbs the world at his own pace and then responds in a way that often feels deceptively simple. Yet that simplicity hides intentionality. Jake is aware of what matters and what does not. He knows when to be serious and when to let things roll off his back. He knows when Finn needs reassurance and when Finn needs silence. His emotional intelligence is subtle, enduring, and shaped by a deep understanding that life is unpredictable, so resistance usually creates more stress than acceptance. One of the core components of Jake's emotional blueprint is patience. He does not demand that the world meet him on his terms. Instead, he moves at a gentle rhythm and invites others into it. He has an ability to see past the immediate moment, past the panic or confusion, and into something steadier. This patience allows him to guide Finn through many kinds of emotional turbulence, not by lecturing him, not by telling him how to feel, but by being present and offering quiet signals of stability. Jake understands that emotions cannot be forced into order. They settle when they feel safe. They move when they feel supported. Jake becomes that kind of presence for Finn, for Lady Rainicorn, and even for his children once his family grows. His relationship with Finn is especially revealing. From the outside, Jake looks like the goofy older brother who encourages chaos, but when you look deeper, you see that he consistently balances Finn's intensity with a grounding influence. Finn charges toward conflict with passion. Jake follows, but he adds caution when needed, humor when tension becomes too tight, and comfort when emotions swell beyond control. Their bond is not built on shared battles, but on shared pacing. Finn moves quickly. Jake slows him down just enough to see the full picture. This steadying effect becomes one of Jake's defining contributions to Ooh. He keeps the emotional temperature of their partnership manageable. He creates the conditions where Finn can grow without collapsing under the weight of his own expectations. Jake's calm attitude is often mistaken for laziness, but it comes from self-knowledge. He understands his own limits. He understands what brings him peace. He understands that forcing himself into constant seriousness would drain him and make him less effective. His rest is intentional. His leisure is a way of preserving emotional clarity. This clarity becomes essential when situations escalate into moral strain or personal conflict. Jake's most insightful moments come when he has taken time to be still. From that stillness rises a wisdom that is never rigid. It bends, adapts, and flows, much like his body. He has lived long enough, and strangely enough, to know that experiences shape you whether you want them to or not. Choosing softness rather than tension is a protective instinct he has refined over many years. Another core piece of Jake's emotional makeup is trust. He places immense faith in the people he loves. He trusts Finn to grow. He trusts Lady Rainicorn to understand him even when they approach life differently. He trusts Princess Bubblegum to act with intention, even if he does not always agree with her. This trust is not blind. It comes from long relationships, from shared history, and from an understanding that people change and grow at different speeds. Jake does not try to control those changes. He lets people move through life in their own way. His trust becomes a form of emotional freedom. When someone believes in you without demanding perfection, you begin to believe in yourself too. Jake becomes that kind of presence for many characters around him, a quiet belief that makes them feel seen and accepted. Jake's flexible emotional boundaries also make him more resilient than he appears. He is not fragile, he does not crumble easily, but he does feel deeply, and he processes those emotions in ways that are steady rather than dramatic. He rarely panics, he rarely spirals. Instead, he steps back, takes a moment to breathe, and considers the emotional landscape. This ability to pause becomes one of his strengths. It allows him to respond instead of react. It allows him to see the emotional truths beneath the surface, whether those truths involve danger, love, regret, or change. This internal calm does not mean he avoids serious feelings. When Jake is confronted with loss or uncertainty, he does feel the weight of those moments. But instead of resisting them, he lets them unfold inside him. He responds to grief and fear by expanding around them, giving the emotion space until it softens. This approach is unusual in animation, where characters often experience exaggerated emotional extremes. Jake's approach mirrors mindful acceptance. He allows emotions to flow through him without letting them erode his sense of self. His flexibility becomes a metaphor for emotional durability. The more he can stretch, the less likely he is to break. Jake also values connection. He surrounds himself with people who matter to him and invests in those relationships without needing grand gestures. His friendships, his romance, his brotherhood with Finn, and later his fatherhood all reflect a steady emotional commitment. He does not love loudly. He loves consistently. This consistency becomes one of the most defining aspects of his blueprint. Many characters in OO experience dramatic arcs driven by conflict, trauma, or existential questions. Jake's arc is quieter. It grows through relationships, through care, through showing up day after day. His emotional depth emerges not in single defining moments, but in the accumulation of small choices that reveal loyalty, empathy, and stability. Part of Jake's emotional complexity comes from his unusual origin. His magical nature gives him abilities that are rare, but these abilities also shaped how he learned to handle the world. He grew up knowing that he was different, that his body reacted to the environment in ways most others could not understand. Instead of letting this difference isolate him, he integrated it into his identity. His powers never define his self-worth, but they inform how he sees himself in relation to others. His stretchiness becomes a form of emotional metaphor. He can adapt. He can expand. He can move around obstacles. These traits appear physically, but they reflect a deeper internal state that guides his emotional choices. Jake's connection with Lady Rainicorn reveals another layer of his emotional design. Their relationship is built on comfort, respect, affection, and trust. Jake does not feel the need to prove himself to her, nor does he try to mold her into an ideal. They love each other as they are. Their dynamic is gentle and natural. They tease each other, they collaborate, they raise children, and they navigate difficult moments with flexibility rather than tension. Their bond demonstrates that emotional depth does not always appear as passionate intensity. Sometimes it appears as compatibility, shared rhythms, and mutual acceptance. Jake and Lady Rainicorn show that emotional stability is not boring. It is a quiet strength that supports growth. As a father, Jake expresses aspects of his emotional blueprint that were only hinted at earlier in his life. His love for his children reveals his capacity for responsibility and sacrifice. Even when the rapid maturity of his kids challenges him, he tries to understand their needs and shape his responses around their developing identities. Jake's emotional approach to parenting mirrors his approach to everything else. He guides gently. He supports openly. He worries quietly. He adapts. He remains present. His fatherhood becomes one of the clearest demonstrations of his emotional evolution, showing how his calm wisdom grows into protective devotion. Jake's sense of humor plays a major role in how he relates to the world. His jokes are not meant to deflect serious emotion. Instead, they lighten the room just enough for difficult feelings to become manageable. Humor becomes one of his tools for connection. He uses it to comfort Finn, to ease tension, to soften fear, and to remind everyone around him that even in chaos, there is space for joy. His humor is gentle rather than biting. It heals rather than harms. It shows that Jake understands how heavy the world can feel, and he chooses to lift some of that weight in small, steady ways. Despite his relaxed attitude, Jake experiences fear, doubt, and insecurity. He has moments where his confidence cracks, where uncertainty creeps in. But he meets those emotions the same way he meets everything else. He stays with them. He acknowledges them. He gives them room to breathe. His internal landscape is not defined by the absence of struggle. It is defined by his response to it. Jake does not hide from his emotions. He lets them exist without letting them command him. This emotional style reflects a deep maturity. It is not dramatic, but it is profound. Jake's emotional blueprint is shaped by a remarkable balance of softness and strength. His softness appears in his empathy, his patience, and his willingness to accept life as it arrives. His strength appears in his loyalty, his courage, and his ability to protect the people he loves. These qualities do not compete. They support each other. His strength grows from his softness. His softness grows from his strength. This balance makes him one of the most emotionally complete characters in Adventure Time, even though the show rarely emphasizes it directly. The quiet core of Jake is not a mystery. It is a steady presence, always there in the background, guiding his decisions and shaping his relationships. His emotional world is wide and flexible, shaped by memory and love, grounded in trust and acceptance. He teaches by example. He listens more than he speaks. He adapts more than he resists. His calmness is not apathy. It is understanding. His humor is not avoidance. It is compassion. His relaxed pace is not laziness. It is wisdom learned from a lifetime of unpredictable magic and unexpected change. When you look at Jake through this emotional lens, you begin to see the patterns that shape his life. You see the moments where his gentleness becomes guidance, where his patience becomes support, where his quiet presence becomes the foundation on which others build their emotional strength. Jake is not the kind of character who demands attention. He is the kind of character who creates stability. He becomes a place of rest for others. He becomes a reminder that emotional resilience does not always require intensity. Sometimes it requires softness, flexibility, and ease. Jake's emotional blueprint is built on acceptance, adaptation, connection, and trust. These qualities move through everything he does. They define his bond with Finn, his love for Lady Rainicorn, his care for his children, his friendships across Ooo, and his responses to the challenges he faces. His emotional world is warm, steady, and deep. It reveals a character who understands himself, who understands others, and who accepts the ever-changing nature of life. In a world filled with chaos and transformation, Jake's emotional stability becomes a rare form of strength. His gentle heart shapes the people around him and quietly influences the world he lives in. Jake does not shout his emotional truths. He carries them, lives them, and expresses them through action and presence. His blueprint is a map of calm resilience, gentle wisdom, and unconditional love. It is a pattern woven through every part of his life, shaped by his experiences, his relationships, and his sense of self. When you sit with it long enough, it becomes clear that Jake is not just the relaxed, funny dog who follows Finn into adventure. He is one of the emotional foundations of Ooo, a steady presence who shows that peace can coexist with bravery, softness can coexist with power, and love can shape a life as strongly as any battle. Change moves through Adventure Time like a constant tide. Kingdoms fall, friendships shift, identities unravel and rebuild. Time stretches forward in unpredictable ways. In the middle of all this movement stands Jake, a character who mirrors change through his magic, yet remains emotionally grounded while the world around him transforms. His relationship with change reveals another deep part of his internal blueprint. Jake adapts, but he does not dissolve. He shifts, but he does not lose the core of who he is. He grows, but he never abandons the emotional values that carry him through every stage of life. Jake has lived an unusual life from the very beginning. His magical nature means that transformation is woven into his identity. He can change shape, size, form, and function with effortless ease. What looks extraordinary to others feels natural to him. Because of this, change does not feel like a disturbance. It feels like a rhythm he has always known. His body teaches him something important that becomes a foundation for his worldview. Change is not something to resist. It is something to understand, something to flow with, something to accept and adapt to. This physical relationship with transformation becomes a symbolic mirror of his emotional relationship with life. Jake's magic is not just a tool, it is a lived experience. Every stretch, every expansion, every shift teaches him that identity can be flexible without becoming unstable. This becomes the quiet lesson that guides him through the more difficult emotional changes he experiences. When relationships evolve, when responsibilities shift, when unexpected events reshape the world around him, Jake moves with these moments instead of stiffening against them. He adjusts his expectations and examines his emotions without falling into fear or panic. His flexibility becomes a philosophy. It is never spoken aloud, but it is expressed through his choices and reactions. One of the clearest signs of Jake's relationship with change appears in the way he approaches growing older. Jake is not afraid of maturity. He does not cling to youth or try to preserve life as it once was. Instead, he welcomes each new stage as something natural. He sees the inevitability of time not as something threatening, but as a kind of quiet companion that walks beside him. He does not rush it, but he also does not run away from it. This acceptance makes his emotional landscape wide and gentle. There is space for growth, there is space for reflection. There is space for the kind of wisdom that comes from living without fear of the future. This perspective becomes especially clear when Jake begins to build a family. The moment he becomes a father, time changes, life expands, responsibilities shift shape. His kids do not grow slowly. They move through childhood at a pace that challenges every expectation of parenthood. Yet Jake does not resist this speed. He does not lament what he cannot control. He does not cling to the idea that childhood should last longer. Instead, he adjusts. He learns to communicate with them based on who they are in each moment. He gives them space to become themselves. Their rapid growth becomes another rhythm within his life, and he moves alongside it with the same flexibility he carries everywhere. Jake understands that change is not always loss. Sometimes it is transformation, renewal, or widening perspective. He understands that clinging to the past often creates unnecessary suffering, so he lets experiences pass through him without gripping too tightly. This does not mean he is detached. He is deeply connected to the people he loves, but his love is spacious rather than restrictive. He knows that holding on too tightly can prevent others from growing. His approach preserves emotional bonds without trapping anyone in a fixed version of the past. This attitude can make Jake seem relaxed in situations where others feel overwhelmed, but his calmness has depth behind it. He has lived long enough, and strangely enough, to recognize patterns in how life moves. He knows that intensity fades. He knows that sadness softens. He knows that fear can shift into understanding. His comfort with change allows him to hold space for others during moments of upheaval. When Finn struggles with difficult emotions, with heartbreak, or with questions of identity, Jake does not rush to offer answers. He gives Finn room to adjust, room to breathe, room to process. He trusts that Finn will find his way through each change in his own time. Jake's relationship with change is also shaped by his past experiences. He did not grow up in a stable environment. His early life was filled with strangeness, surprises, and supernatural events. Instead of becoming anxious or fearful from these experiences, he learned to embrace unpredictability. He learned that not everything needs to be understood in order to be lived. His emotional blueprint reflects this understanding. He does not demand explanations for every mystery. He does not feel threatened by things that exist outside his control. He accepts that the world is too vast and strange to fully grasp, and instead of fighting that reality, he moves with it. This perspective gives Jake a healthy distance from fear. He does experience fear, but he does not let it shape his identity. He treats it as a temporary guest rather than a permanent resident. When fear visits, he acknowledges it and then waits for it to pass. This attitude helps him remain stable through many of the dramatic events in U. While others struggle to make meaning from chaos, Jake keeps a grounded perspective. He teaches others that the world can change in unexpected ways, yet life still has space for comfort, love, and connection. Many characters in Adventure Time undergo intense internal transformations. They reinvent themselves, question their purpose, or wrestle with the consequences of their past. Jake rarely experiences such dramatic shifts because he already lives in a state of emotional fluidity. Change does not shock him. He incorporates it into his understanding of life. His internal stability comes from his ability to flow. This fluidity makes him resilient in ways that go unnoticed. While others harden and crack under pressure, Jake bends and adapts. His strength lies not in resisting change, but in surviving it without losing his compassion. Jake is also aware that not all change is positive. Some change brings discomfort, uncertainty, or sadness. He does not pretend otherwise. Instead, he accepts these moments as part of life's balance. When difficult change arrives, he does not hide from it. He sits with the feelings it brings. He lets sadness or confusion pass through him without letting it drown him. This emotional acceptance allows him to hold both joy and grief without contradiction. Jake understands that life is wide enough for opposing truths. Growth often comes from embracing both the light and the shadow of change. One of the most significant examples of Jake's relationship with change is his evolving role in Finn's life. In the early days, Jake guides him closely. He protects him, teaches him, and comforts him. But as Finn grows more independent, Jake steps back. He does not cling to the old dynamic. He does not struggle to maintain the same level of influence. Instead, he recognizes that Finn needs space to become his own person. Jake adapts by becoming a quieter presence when necessary. This shift in their relationship shows how deeply Jake understands the natural progression of life. Bonds do not weaken when roles change. They evolve, and that evolution can deepen connection rather than diminish it. Jake's emotional blueprint also shows that he understands the impermanence of moments. He treats the present as something precious, but not something that must be preserved exactly as it is. He knows that experiences are meant to be lived rather than held. This gives him an ease that is rare among the characters in U. Many fight to maintain control. Many fear the future or mourn the past. Jake walks forward without dragging emotional weight behind him. He carries memories with warmth rather than longing. He welcomes new experiences without fearing what they might replace. His relationship with Lady Rainicorn demonstrates this beautifully. Their partnership evolves through many stages, each one shaped by changing responsibilities, shifting priorities, and the unpredictable rhythms of family life. Jake does not resist these shifts. He adapts to them with affection and patience. He understands that love grows when both people allow themselves to change. His romance thrives because he does not rely on rigid expectations. He lets their relationship find its own shape over time, just as he lets his body find new shapes when needed. His emotional flexibility becomes a cornerstone of their harmonious bond. Jake's sense of identity is strong enough to withstand change because it is not built on something fragile. He does not need constant validation to remain grounded. He does not measure himself against external standards. His identity grows organically from his experiences, relationships, and values. This allows him to meet change with confidence. Even when the world shifts dramatically, Jake knows who he is. He trusts that he can adapt while remaining true to his emotional core. His approach to change also influences how he deals with conflict. Jake prefers peaceful solutions. He avoids unnecessary tension. He encourages compromise and understanding. This is not because he fears confrontation, but because he understands that conflict often arises from rigid expectations. When people cling to a fixed idea of how things should be, they struggle to accept how things actually are. Jake sidesteps this struggle by letting go of the need for control. This gives him clarity during conflicts and keeps his emotional energy balanced. His adaptability becomes a practical skill that helps others find alternatives to destructive choices. Jake's emotional relationship with change also connects to his sense of mortality. Though he does not obsess over the future, he understands that life moves in one direction. He accepts the idea of an eventual end with surprising peace. His acceptance does not come from carelessness, it comes from gratitude. Jake appreciates the life he has lived. He cherishes his relationships. He sees each moment as something meaningful, even if it is small. Because of this, he does not waste energy fearing what he cannot stop. His acceptance of impermanence becomes one of the strongest aspects of his emotional blueprint. Jake's wisdom emerges from this acceptance. He does not force lessons on others, but his actions show that growth comes from allowing life to unfold rather than trying to control every outcome. His emotional openness creates safety for others. Finn, Lady Rainicorn, his children, and many of his friends feel this comfort. They trust Jake because he does not resist their changes. He accepts them as they are in each moment. This acceptance creates emotional stability in a world filled with shifting landscapes and unpredictable dangers. Jake's relationship with change also influences his creativity. His imagination is wide and playful. He sees possibilities where others see limits. This creativity comes from his willingness to embrace new perspectives. He does not restrict his thinking to what is familiar. He explores ideas with excitement and curiosity. His creative spirit reinforces his emotional resilience. When faced with a problem, he does not panic. He experiments. He improvises. He finds solutions through openness rather than rigidity. His entire emotional blueprint is shaped by this fluid relationship with change. It allows him to grow continuously, to love without fear, to support others without controlling them, and to experience life without clinging to what must eventually shift. Jake's worldview is not naive. It is wise. He understands the nature of impermanence better than most. This understanding gives him peace, and that peace is one of the greatest gifts he offers to the people he cares about. In a world that changes in unpredictable ways, Jake remains steady not because he resists change, but because he welcomes it. He becomes a source of emotional stability in the lives of those around him. His strength is gentle, his wisdom is quiet, his resilience is flexible. Through this relationship with change, he becomes one of the calmest and most emotionally mature figures in U. His approach teaches that life can be soft even when it is uncertain, that identity can grow without breaking, and that acceptance can transform fear into understanding. Jake's emotional blueprint is not defined by control. It is defined by trust in the natural rhythm of life. His ability to stretch in both body and spirit becomes a metaphor for the way he exists in the world. He invites others into a way of being that is patient, spacious, and grounded in acceptance. Through him, change becomes something gentle rather than frightening. It becomes a path to growth rather than a threat to identity. Jake lives this truth quietly, and through his actions, he shapes the emotional landscape of everyone around him. Jake the dog is known for his relaxed attitude, his easy humour, and his ability to drift through life with a sense of comfort that many characters in U admire. Yet beneath that relaxed surface lies an emotional landscape that is far more complex than it first appears. Jake's fear and courage are intertwined in a way that reflects his unique relationship with the world. He is not fearless. He is not careless. Instead, he understands fear as something natural, something that visits rather than defines. His courage grows from acceptance rather than denial, from patience rather than bravado. His emotional blueprint contains a quiet but powerful understanding that courage does not come from the absence of fear, but from the ability to move through it without losing oneself. Jake approaches fear differently from most characters. Many respond to fear with intensity or panic. Jake responds with reflection. When he encounters something frightening, he does not immediately tense up. He pauses. He considers. He checks in with himself. This ability to create internal space separates him from characters who react impulsively. Fear does not become a wall in front of him. It becomes a doorway that he walks through slowly, learning as he goes. This calmness does not mean he lacks emotion. Instead, it means he gives himself room to feel without being overwhelmed. His relationship with fear is tied closely to his magical nature. Jake grew up knowing that his abilities made him different. He could stretch, bend, grow, shrink, and reshape himself in ways that no one else around him could. This difference exposed him to experiences that might have frightened someone else. But Jake learned early that understanding the unknown reduces its power. As he explored the limits of his magic, he also explored the limits of his emotional reactions. His body taught him that change is survivable. His emotions learned the same lesson. Fear became familiar rather than terrifying. Jake's courage emerges from this familiarity. When danger arises, he rarely freezes. He thinks about the situation. He analyzes what his body can do to protect himself and the people he loves. His courage comes from confidence in his abilities and trust in his understanding of the moment. He evaluates risk not through panic, but through intuition. This intuitive courage becomes one of his greatest strengths. It allows him to step into danger with awareness rather than blind bravery. He knows that being brave does not mean charging forward without thought. It means acting with clarity. Finn often faces fear by pushing himself physically or emotionally beyond his limits. Jake supports him, but he also demonstrates another approach. Jake shows that fear can be softened rather than conquered. When Finn is afraid, Jake does not force him into courage. He creates a safe emotional space where Finn can process his feelings. Jake's calm presence becomes a gentle guide. He shows Finn that fear is not a flaw. It is a natural response that can be managed with understanding and patience. This teaching is subtle, but it shapes Finn's emotional growth throughout their time together. Jake's courage also appears in his willingness to face emotional challenges. He is open about his feelings. He does not hide sadness or uncertainty. He does not pretend that everything is fine when it is not. Instead, he acknowledges his emotions and lets them exist without shame. This honesty requires bravery. Many characters in U struggle to express vulnerability. Jake embraces it. His openness shows that emotional courage is just as important as physical courage. By being honest about how he feels, he creates deeper connections with the people he loves. One of the most revealing aspects of Jake's emotional blueprint is how he responds when fear arises from responsibility. When he becomes a father, the stakes change. His children grow rapidly, and their unpredictable development creates new challenges. Jake experiences moments of doubt. He wonders if he is ready for this responsibility. He wonders if he can meet the needs of children who move through life at a pace that feels supernatural. These fears are understandable, yet Jake steps forward anyway. He grows into the role with patience and humility. This is courage of a different kind. It is not sudden or dramatic. It is slow, steady commitment to learning and adapting. Jake's courage as a parent does not mean he always knows what to do. It means he is willing to keep trying. He listens to his children. He learns from them. He adjusts his expectations. He protects them when necessary, but he also gives them space to grow. His courage becomes a foundation on which his children can build their own identities. They trust him because he does not hide behind pretended strength. He shows them that courage is gentle and humble, and that it grows through love. Jake's relationship with Lady Rainicorn also reveals a unique form of courage. Emotional connection requires vulnerability. It requires trust. It requires openness. Jake allows himself to be emotionally transparent in this relationship. He does not fear closeness. He does not fear compromise. He does not fear the work that long-term partnership demands. Instead, he steps into it fully, confident that emotional risk is worth the reward. His courage makes their relationship harmonious. Lady Rainicorn trusts him because his bravery comes from sincerity rather than performance. Even Jake's friendships show this pattern. He is not a character who uses bravado to hide insecurity. He does not dominate conversations or demand attention. Instead, he builds friendships through steady acceptance and openness. When someone he cares about is hurting, he offers support without hesitation. His courage appears in his willingness to be present for others, even when their emotions are heavy. He does not shy away from sadness. He does not avoid difficult topics. He understands that being there for someone during emotional struggle is a form of bravery. Jake also shows courage when he must face the unknown. Ooh is full of strange places, unpredictable creatures, and bizarre magical phenomena. Jake does not claim to understand everything, yet he approaches the unknown with curiosity instead of fear. This curiosity is a quiet form of strength. It allows him to step into unfamiliar situations with openness. He does not shut down when confronted with something strange. He explores. He observes. He learns. His courage grows from his willingness to remain open rather than defensive. Another important aspect of Jake's courage is his ability to confront his own flaws. He knows he is not perfect. He knows he makes mistakes. When he realizes that he has hurt someone or acted poorly, he does not hide from these truths. He acknowledges them. He apologizes. He repairs. This accountability takes bravery. It is easier to ignore mistakes. It is easier to pretend nothing went wrong. Jake chooses the harder path. He chooses honesty and growth. His courage strengthens his relationships because others can trust that he will not run from difficult conversations. Jake's magical nature also plays a role in how he handles fear and courage. His ability to stretch makes him physically flexible, but it also influences his emotional flexibility. He does not get stuck in one state. He can expand around fear, giving himself space to understand it. His adaptability becomes a protected inner resource. Fear cannot trap him because he can reshape his emotional response. Courage becomes easier when fear is not a rigid obstacle, but something that can be moved, examined, and softened. Some characters in Adventure Time seek heroism as a way to escape fear or redefine themselves. Jake does not seek heroism. He simply responds to the needs of the moment. His courage is situational rather than performative. He does not pursue grand victories. He protects, comforts, and guides. He understands that heroism is not defined by scale. It is defined by intention. His courage appears in moments both small and large, always expressed through love and care rather than spectacle. Jake's relationship with fear also connects to his sense of mortality. He does not dwell on the inevitability of time. He does not fear the future. He accepts that everything changes, everything grows, and everything eventually fades. This acceptance allows him to face the future with peace. His courage is not a fierce resistance against time. It is a gentle willingness to walk forward without fear. This calm acceptance influences everyone around him. It creates an emotional anchor for Finn, for Lady Rainicorn, for his children, and for many of his friends. They see in Jake a peaceful approach to life's impermanence, and they learn from him through observation. Another facet of Jake's courage appears when he chooses compassion over anger. Emotional restraint requires strength. When someone acts in hurtful or confusing ways, Jake does not respond with aggression. He tries to understand their intentions. He looks for the emotional truth beneath their actions. This approach requires courage because it demands vulnerability. It asks him to feel instead of react. It invites empathy rather than defensiveness. Jake's kindness is not passive, it is brave. It insists on remaining open even when shutting down would be easier. Jake's gentle courage also becomes clear in his role as a guide for Finn's emotional growth. He does not push Finn to be stronger than he is ready to be. He stays nearby, offering support without imposing expectations. This patience requires bravery. It means accepting that he cannot control Finn's journey. It means trusting that Finn will find strength in his own time. Jake's courage appears in his willingness to let others grow at their own pace. Even Jake's fears themselves reveal his depth. He is afraid of letting down those he loves. He is afraid of not living up to his responsibilities. He is afraid of losing the people who matter to him. These fears are not signs of weakness. They are signs of care. They are the emotional shadows that appear when you love deeply. Jake faces these fears not by avoiding them, but by living with intention. He nurtures his relationships. He expresses affection openly. He chooses honesty over comfort. His courage becomes a daily practice, shaped by love. Jake shows that courage can be soft. It does not always shout. Sometimes it whispers. Sometimes it rests. Sometimes it waits. Jake carries this softness with pride. He knows that quiet courage is not lesser courage. It is courage without spectacle. It is bravery that grows from understanding rather than pressure. Jake's emotional blueprint reveals that courage is a series of choices made with intention, compassion, and clarity. His courage shapes the emotional ecosystem of Oo. Finn grows stronger because of Jake's presence. Lady Rainicorn builds a family with confidence because she trusts him. His children thrive because they feel safe in his love. His friends feel supported because they know he is dependable. Jake's courage becomes a quiet force that strengthens the people around him. It is not a single moment of heroism. It is a lifetime of steady bravery. In the end, Jake's inner landscape of fear and courage shows that emotional strength does not need to be loud, it needs to be sincere. Jake accepts his fears, understands them, and moves with them rather than against them. His courage grows from acceptance, love, and deep inner peace. Through this, he becomes one of the most emotionally grounded characters in Adventure Time. His bravery is gentle, his fear is human, his wisdom is steady. Together, they form a blueprint that continues to guide him and support those who walk beside him. Loyalty sits at the center of Jake's emotional blueprint. It is the quiet force behind his decisions, his relationships, and the way he navigates the challenges of life in Oo. His loyalty is not loud or dramatic. It does not seek attention or recognition. Instead, it moves like a steady current within him, shaping his behavior in ways that are sometimes gentle, sometimes powerful, but always rooted in love and commitment. Jake's loyalty is shaped by experience, memory, and a deep understanding that relationships are not fragile ornaments to be admired from a distance. They are bonds that require care, patience, and presence. Jake's most well-known loyalty is, of course, his bond with Finn. Their relationship is unique in the world of Adventure Time. It is not simply companionship, nor is it merely teamwork. It is a deep brotherhood formed through shared challenges, shared growth, and shared care. Jake feels responsible for Finn, not in a burdensome way, but in a way that reveals how much he values him. Jake's loyalty shows itself through consistent presence. He stays by Finn's side during danger, during heartbreak, during confusion, and during moments of change. What makes Jake's loyalty so striking is that he does not express it through strict supervision or controlling behavior. Instead, he supports Finn's independence while still being a source of stability. Finn's emotional world is intense. He feels deeply. He leaps into action quickly. He confronts emotions with bravery, even when they overwhelm him. Jake complements this intensity by offering stability. His loyalty does not bind Finn. It steadies him. Jake knows that loyalty is not about controlling someone. It is about helping them feel safe enough to grow. When Finn faces emotional struggles, Jake does not pull him away from those challenges. He stays close, ready to guide if needed, but he also trusts Finn to make his own choices. This balance reveals Jake's understanding of loyalty as something that strengthens both people. Jake's loyalty to Finn also appears in his willingness to adapt to Finn's changing needs. As Finn matures, Jake allows their relationship to shift with him. He does not cling to older roles or nostalgic expectations. Instead, he recognizes that loyalty includes giving space. This emotional maturity sets Jake apart. He understands that loyalty is not measured by constant closeness, but by steady support that remains even when circumstances change. Finn knows he can rely on Jake at any moment, and that knowledge itself becomes a foundation for his growth. Jake's loyalty extends beyond Finn. His relationship with Lady Rainicorn is another example of how deeply he commits to the people he loves. Their bond is full of comfort and affection, but beneath it lies a steady commitment that Jake maintains without hesitation. He supports her decisions, respects her independence, and adapts to the cultural and personal differences that arise between them. Jake's loyalty to her does not require sameness. It respects uniqueness. He shows her love by learning her rhythms, understanding her perspective, and embracing her world as part of his own. This loyalty becomes even more evident as they build a family together. Parenthood demands a new kind of commitment, one that is sometimes difficult and sometimes complex. Jake steps into this stage of life with sincerity. His loyalty to Lady Rainicorn transforms into devotion to their children, a devotion that is gentle but steady. He supports them as they grow in unpredictable ways. He respects their individuality and protects their autonomy. His loyalty takes the shape of care rather than control, and this allows their family life to flourish. Beyond his family, Jake displays loyalty in his friendships and alliances across Ooo. His bond with Princess Bubblegum reflects trust and long-standing camaraderie. Jake does not always understand her decisions, and he does not always agree with her choices, but he trusts her intentions. This trust is a form of loyalty. He knows that she carries heavy responsibilities and complex inner struggles, and he stands beside her when his presence can be helpful. He does not seek influence or authority. He offers support without expecting reward. Jake's loyalty also extends to less obvious relationships. He has a warm bond with Marceline, built on mutual respect and a shared sense of comfort. Their dynamic is relaxed, filled with casual understanding rather than intensity. Jake does not need every relationship to be dramatic in order to feel meaningful. He values connections that grow naturally, whether they are quiet or vibrant. This openness forms the foundation of his loyalty. He does not devote himself only to the loudest relationships. He remains loyal to anyone who becomes part of his heart. Another dimension of Jake's loyalty appears when he faces moral uncertainty. Jake is not a character who seeks conflict, but he does not shy away from difficult choices. When he must act to protect the people he cares about, his loyalty becomes a source of courage. He has moments of hesitation, moments of doubt, and moments of fear, yet his love for others pushes him through those emotions. His loyalty becomes a motivator that helps him access bravery he does not always feel he possesses. This kind of courage is quiet but powerful. Jake's loyalty also has a subtle connection to his sense of identity. He understands himself well enough to commit to others without losing his individuality. His loyalty does not trap him, it anchors him. He has enough confidence in his own identity to trust others deeply. This creates stability in his relationships. People trust Jake because his loyalty never feels conditional. He does not withdraw affection when things become difficult. He does not disappear when situations become complex. He remains steady. Even his relaxed personality contributes to his loyalty. Jake does not push people toward emotional intensity. He gives relationships space to breathe. This creates an environment where others feel safe sharing their vulnerabilities. Loyalty, in Jake's world, is not a dramatic declaration. It is a gentle presence. It is the assurance that he is there, fully and consistently, even when he is quiet or playful. His loyalty is woven into his everyday actions, his small gestures, and his steady companionship. Jake's loyalty also appears in how he manages conflict within his closest relationships. He does not hold grudges. He does not punish others for making mistakes. Instead, he offers forgiveness with sincerity. His forgiveness does not come from passivity, it comes from empathy. Jake understands that people act from complicated motives, shaped by their own fears and hopes. His willingness to forgive is a form of loyalty that recognizes the depth of human emotion. Forgiveness does not erase pain, but it allows relationships to continue growing. Jake gives this gift freely. There is another layer to Jake's loyalty that deserves attention. Loyalty, for him, includes honesty. He does not hide truths that others need to hear. When Finn is overwhelmed, Jake sometimes offers gentle guidance or perspective. His honesty is shaped by care. He does not speak harshly, he speaks with kindness. This balanced honesty strengthens his relationships. People trust Jake not only because he stays, but because he communicates with integrity when it matters. Jake's loyalty is also tied to his view of time. He understands that relationships evolve. He does not measure loyalty by how often he sees someone or how much time they spend together. He measures it by emotional presence. Even when life pulls people in different directions, Jake remains connected to those he cares about. He carries affection that does not fade with physical distance or changing circumstances. His loyalty exists outside rigid expectations. It remains constant because it is woven into his identity. His loyalty becomes especially meaningful in moments of vulnerability. When someone he loves faces emotional turmoil, Jake becomes a source of comfort. He listens without judgment. He offers companionship without pressure. He never demands that others hide their sadness or hurry their healing. This compassion elevates his loyalty into something deeper. It becomes a form of emotional safety for the people around him. Jake's loyalty can also be seen in how he responds to his own mistakes. He is not perfect. He makes choices that sometimes hurt others. But when he realizes his errors, he takes responsibility. He acknowledges harm. He makes amends. This accountability strengthens his loyalty because it shows that he respects the emotional well-being of the people he loves. Loyalty, in Jake's blueprint, includes the willingness to repair. Another subtle form of loyalty appears in how Jake protects others without diminishing their independence. He watches over Finn during danger, yet he does not interfere unless necessary. He recognizes when someone must face a challenge alone and when someone needs support. His loyalty is not possessive. It does not smother. It enhances the autonomy of the people around him. This balance is rare, and it demonstrates Jake's emotional intelligence. Even Jake's sense of humour is connected to loyalty. He uses humour to lighten emotional burdens, to ease tension, and to help others feel comfortable. This humour reflects understanding. Jake knows when laughter can help someone breathe easier. He knows when a gentle joke can soften fear or sadness. His humour is not used to avoid emotional depth. It is used to support those he loves. This is another way his loyalty shapes his interactions. Jake's loyalty also influences the way he deals with secrets and personal histories. When someone shares something painful with him, he treats it with respect. He does not spread it or weaponize it. He stores it within himself gently, understanding that trust is fragile. His ability to hold others' stories with care strengthens his relationships. People trust Jake because he values their inner worlds. Jake's loyalty becomes even more impressive when you consider the environment of Ooh. The world is unpredictable. Relationships are tested by time, magic, danger, and emotional complexity. Yet Jake remains constant. His loyalty is not broken by fear or temptation. It stands firm through dramatic transformations, personal revelations, and shifting alliances. His emotional steadiness becomes a rare source of comfort in a world filled with instability. In many ways, Jake's loyalty stems from his deep capacity for love. His love is warm, patient, and enduring. It does not burn too hot. It does not demand anything in return. It exists because he chooses to care. Jake's emotional strength comes from this choice. He loves freely, without fear of vulnerability. This love moves through every part of his loyalty. It shapes how he protects, how he supports, how he forgives, and how he stays. As Jake moves through life, his loyalty becomes one of the key elements that define his emotional blueprint. It shapes his role in his family, in his friendships, and in his adventures. It creates stability for others and helps them feel grounded even in moments of uncertainty. Loyalty, for Jake, is not a burden. It is a natural extension of who he is. It is quiet, steady, and deeply rooted in compassion. Jake's loyalty shows that emotional commitment does not require intensity. It requires presence. It requires patience. It requires kindness. Through Jake, loyalty becomes something gentle and powerful at the same time. It becomes a form of emotional strength that supports others without ever demanding the spotlight. It becomes the hidden force that keeps relationships strong through time and change. In the end, Jake's loyalty is one of the most beautiful aspects of his emotional world. It reflects his inner wisdom, his loving nature, and his commitment to the people who shape his life. His loyalty is not heroic in a dramatic sense. It is heroic in a quiet way. It is the kind of loyalty that helps others feel safe enough to grow, brave enough to face uncertainty, and loved enough to remain open. It is a loyalty that continues no matter how the world changes, because it is woven into the very heart of who Jake is. Jake the dog carries himself with a sense of ease that defines his presence throughout adventure time. This ease shapes the way people perceive him. To many, Jake seems relaxed, carefree, and interested in living a simple life without unnecessary complications. But beneath this outward simplicity lies a rich and subtle philosophy that informs how he approaches every emotional and practical situation. Jake's ease is not laziness, nor is it a lack of awareness. It is a deliberate emotional posture born from experience, intuition, and a deep understanding of what truly matters. His philosophy becomes one of the quiet foundations of his emotional blueprint. Jake's ease begins with how he views the world. He sees life as something to be experienced rather than solved. Many characters wrestle with identity, purpose, morality, or destiny. Jake does not ignore these questions, but he does not treat them as burdens that must be answered immediately. He allows life to unfold. He trusts that meaning will reveal itself over time. This patience gives him emotional room to breathe. His ease is the result of giving himself permission to live without constant pressure. It is a spiritual acceptance that the world is vast, strange, unpredictable, and still worth enjoying. This mindset influences how Jake moves through each day. He does not rush tasks. He does not overthink choices. He listens to his instincts and lets them guide his actions. His instincts are sharp because he has learned to trust them. He does not waste emotional energy fighting himself. This internal harmony creates a sense of calm that radiates outward. People feel comfortable around Jake because he does not generate tension. His emotional equilibrium becomes a quiet refuge for others. Jake's ease also shapes the way he interprets conflict. Many characters escalate tension without meaning to. They struggle with fear, anger, confusion, or pain, and these emotions lead to intense reactions. Jake takes a different approach. When conflict arises, he looks for the simplest emotional path forward. This does not mean he avoids difficult conversations or hides from problems. Instead, he focuses on what is necessary. He removes the clutter of overthinking. He listens to his feelings and to the feelings of those around him, then chooses the response that brings the most peace without sacrificing integrity. This simplicity becomes one of the most deceptive aspects of Jake's philosophy. It can make him look like he lacks depth, but in truth, simplifying emotional experiences requires deep understanding. It means recognizing when complexity is real and when it is self-created. Jake discerns between the two. He understands that many emotional struggles come from pushing too hard, thinking too much, or wanting control where none is possible. His ease quiets these impulses. He finds the center of a situation and responds from that place. Jake's philosophy of ease becomes most visible when compared to Finn's passionate intensity. Finn approaches the world with determination and emotional fire. He wants to fix things, understand things, and take action. Jake complements this by offering a slower, softer perspective. When Finn becomes overwhelmed by emotion, Jake helps him step back. When Finn is frustrated, Jake helps him breathe. When Finn feels pressure to act quickly, Jake reminds him that time often brings clarity. Jake does not dismiss Finn's emotions. He gives them space to pass through. This supportive guidance reflects Jake's belief that ease can coexist with passion, and that balance between the two creates emotional harmony. Jake's ease also shapes his creativity. He improvises solutions with fluid imagination. He stretches into shapes that others could not conceive. His relaxed perspective allows him to see possibilities where others see obstacles. Creativity, for Jake, emerges from playfulness rather than pressure. This playful approach becomes a powerful emotional resource. It keeps him flexible in mind as well as body. His ability to adapt comes from a willingness to explore without fear of failure. When he encounters a challenge, he tries something new, not because he is reckless, but because he trusts his intuition. This trust extends into his relationships. Jake does not pressure his loved ones to act a certain way. He lets relationships evolve naturally. He does not demand emotional performances. He does not cling to expectations. His ease allows others to feel accepted without needing to shape themselves into something more polished or more dramatic. This creates deep and lasting bonds. People trust Jake because he does not judge them. His acceptance is gentle and sincere. It provides emotional safety, which makes his connections strong without being rigid. Jake's approach to emotional pain also reveals the wisdom behind his ease. He does not avoid sadness. He lets it exist. When he experiences loss or disappointment, he feels it fully without resisting. He does not force himself to move on quickly. Instead, he waits for the feeling to settle. His stillness becomes a form of healing. He knows that rushing emotional recovery often causes more difficulty. He gives himself time. By doing this, he teaches the people around him that healing does not require intensity, it requires presence. Jake's ease also helps him maintain perspective. He understands that small frustrations are temporary. When something goes wrong, he does not allow it to dominate his emotional state. He knows that the world contains both chaos and comfort, and that both pass with time. This perspective prevents him from spiraling into anxiety. His calmness becomes a protective layer around his heart. Even in moments of danger, he remains composed. He does not ignore risk. He simply refuses to let fear erase his clarity. This emotional posture makes him a stabilizing force in dangerous situations. Another important part of Jake's philosophy is his relationship with responsibility. Jake does not seek leadership or command. He does not desire control, yet he steps into responsibility when needed. He takes care of Finn, supports Lady Rainicorn, and protects his family. His ease is not an excuse to avoid obligations, it is the way he manages them. He accepts responsibility without letting it harden him. He approaches it with patience and understanding. This keeps him from becoming overwhelmed. Responsibility becomes a natural extension of care rather than a burden. Jake's ability to rest is also part of his wisdom. He knows when he needs to recharge. He knows that exhaustion leads to emotional imbalance. He listens to his body and his mind. Rest becomes an intentional practice, not a sign of laziness. Jake understands that internal clarity requires quiet time. His naps, his relaxation, his slow moments are not escapes. They are part of his emotional maintenance. Through rest, he preserves his patience and his emotional flexibility. His philosophy of ease also influences how he interprets the actions of others. Jake rarely assumes bad intentions. He assumes confusion, stress, fear, or misunderstanding. This generous interpretation creates emotional openness. When someone behaves unpredictably, Jake does not take it personally. He tries to understand the root of their behavior. This patience helps him maintain positive relationships, even in moments of tension. His ease allows him to separate his own emotions from the emotions of others. This prevents unnecessary conflict. Jake's gentle approach to life might suggest that he avoids deep thinking, but this is not true. His wisdom comes from observing the world quietly. He learns from experience. He pays attention to emotional patterns, both in himself and others. His insights do not burst forth in dramatic monologues. They arrive as quiet truths, shared casually but with real weight. Jake's wisdom is subtle. It feels soft, but it comes from deep awareness. This makes him one of the most emotionally intelligent characters in OO, even if he rarely calls attention to it. Jake's philosophy of ease shines when he navigates moral questions. He does not complicate ethical decisions. He focuses on empathy, harm reduction, and supporting those he loves. His moral compass is grounded in genuine care rather than abstract principles. When faced with ethical dilemmas, he chooses the path that aligns with kindness. His choices are simple, but their simplicity is powerful. It cuts through confusion and reveals what is truly important. He does not need to debate morality with himself. He feels it. He follows the warmth of compassion. This approach also shapes his relationship with unpredictability. U frequently challenges characters with situations that have no clear solutions. Jake handles these moments with a relaxed determination. He does not crumble under uncertainty. He does not demand immediate answers. Instead, he works with what he has. His ease allows him to stay open-minded. He accepts that not every question has a clean resolution. This acceptance frees him from emotional strain and allows him to discover solutions through steady experimentation. Jake's philosophy of ease becomes especially meaningful when he faces internal conflict. He does not deny discomfort. He examines it. He lets it surface. He sits with it long enough to understand why it exists. This emotional patience prevents him from acting impulsively. It allows him to respond with consideration rather than reaction. His inner world remains balanced because he treats emotions with respect rather than fear. Over time, Jake's ease evolves into a coherent worldview. He values peace over control, acceptance over intensity, understanding over judgment, and presence over speed. These values shape his daily life and his relationships. They give him stability that others rely on. Even when chaos surrounds him, Jake remains grounded in his philosophy. This makes him a pillar of emotional strength in U. Jake's approach teaches an important lesson. Ease is not ignorance. It is wisdom shaped through experience, forgiveness, curiosity, and love. It is the understanding that life cannot always be controlled, and that peace often comes from accepting this truth. Jake embodies this philosophy with authenticity. It becomes the foundation of his emotional blueprint and one of the reasons he remains such a comforting presence. His philosophy also reveals how deeply he trusts the people he loves. Ease comes naturally to him because he believes in others. He does not expect betrayal. He does not wait for disappointment. He opens himself to connection without fear. This openness creates harmonious relationships that flourish without unnecessary tension. Jake's trust is quiet but unwavering. It reflects the peace he carries within. Jake's philosophy of ease does not prevent him from feeling intense emotion. He experiences love, fear, joy, curiosity, confusion, sadness, and excitement. But these emotions do not overwhelm his clarity because he allows them to pass through him. He does not resist them. He does not amplify them. He welcomes each feeling as part of the flow of life. This acceptance becomes one of his strengths. It keeps his heart steady, even when the world moves unpredictably. In the end, Jake's philosophy of ease reveals that simplicity can be profound. His choices reflect emotional wisdom learned over a lifetime. His relaxed approach becomes a form of spiritual grounding. It reminds others that life does not always require urgency, that peace can be found in slowing down, and that love grows naturally when it is not forced. Jake lives these truths quietly, yet they shape everything around him. His ease is not the absence of depth, it is the presence of understanding. It is the emotional foundation that allows him to be flexible, compassionate, loyal, playful, and brave. Jake's philosophy becomes a guide not only for himself, but for everyone who walks beside him. Through him, ease becomes a pathway to emotional maturity, stability, and peace. Love moves through Jake the dog's life in gentle patterns. He does not express love through dramatic declarations or grand romantic gestures. Instead, he expresses it through small rituals, consistent behavior, and an almost instinctive understanding of what people need to feel safe and appreciated. Jake's love language sits at the heart of his emotional blueprint. It shapes how he nurtures relationships, how he communicates affection, and how he supports the people who fill his life. His love language is soft, steady, and deeply human, revealing layers of emotional sensitivity that are easy to overlook if you focus only on his playful exterior. Jake expresses love most visibly through presence. When he cares about someone, he shows up for them. This presence is not performative. He shows up quietly, sincerely, and consistently. He listens, even if he does not always respond with heavy words. He stays near during difficult moments, providing comfort through his company rather than through speeches. Many characters rely on him precisely because of this. They know that Jake will not abandon them during emotional storms. His affection is rooted in dependability. One of the clearest expressions of his love language appears in his relationship with Finn. Jake supports Finn through countless emotional challenges, but support, for Jake, is not about direction. It is about companionship. When Finn struggles with heartbreak, Jake sits with him through it. When Finn wrestles with questions about identity or moral dilemmas, Jake does not judge. He does not attempt to rush Finn toward answers. Instead, he gives Finn the loving space needed to process his feelings. This space is a gift. It shows that Jake trusts Finn to find his own path and that he loves him enough to wait. Jake also expresses love through physical affection, which is natural for him given his stretchy, dynamic body. He hugs with warmth. He lounges comfortably beside his loved ones. He playfully nudges or stretches around someone to make them laugh. These small gestures communicate affection without formality. They create emotional comfort. They remind others that Jake's presence is safe and nurturing. His physical warmth is not clingy. It is gentle reassurance. His bond with Lady Rainicorn reveals another layer of his love language. Their relationship thrives on mutual comfort and respect. Jake shows love through attentive listening, even when he cannot fully understand every nuance of her language without translation. He pays attention to her tone, her expressions, and her emotional state. This attentive sensitivity makes him a thoughtful partner. He does not need exact words to understand how she feels. His intuition bridges the emotional space between them. He also expresses love through shared activities. Jake values the simple pleasure of spending time with the people he cares about. Whether lounging at home with Lady Rainicorn, adventuring with Finn, or hanging out with friends, shared presence becomes a ritual of connection. Jake does not believe that meaningful experiences require elaborate planning. He knows that love grows in everyday moments. It grows in quiet mornings, casual conversations, and peaceful rest. It grows when two beings simply enjoy each other's company. This philosophy influences his role as a father. Jake expresses love to his children through patience. Their rapid growth could easily overwhelm a less adaptable parent, but Jake meets each stage with curiosity and openness. He listens to them. He follows their lead. He respects their independence from the moment they develop it. His love is not controlling. It encourages exploration. His affection becomes a foundation they can rely on, even as they outgrow childhood with impossible speed. Jake also expresses love through reassurance. When someone he loves feels insecure, he offers comfort without hesitation. His words are soothing rather than analytical. He tells people what they need to hear in the moment, not what he believes they should learn eventually. His comfort is immediate and tailored to the emotional needs of the person in front of him. This responsiveness reflects deep empathy. Humor is another major component of Jake's love language. He uses humor to lighten emotional burdens. This is especially important during tense or difficult moments. Jake does not use jokes to avoid emotional depth. He uses them to make emotions more manageable. Laughter becomes a bridge that helps people feel less alone. It makes sadness lighter. It helps fear settle. It creates connection through shared joy. Jake's humor is always warm. It never mocks vulnerabilities. It lifts people up rather than pushing them away. Jake also expresses love by creating a feeling of emotional safety. People open up around him because he listens without judgment. He does not rush to give advice. He does not impose solutions. Instead, he listens with sincerity. This kind of listening makes others feel understood. Emotional safety is one of the most important expressions of love, especially in a world as unpredictable as ooh. Jake offers it generously. His love language also includes flexibility. He adapts his behavior to the emotional needs of the moment. If someone needs space, Jake gives it. If someone needs company, he stays. If someone needs distraction, he brings humor or a gentle activity. If someone needs honesty, he shares it softly. Jake's ability to adjust creates strong emotional bonds. His love is responsive rather than rigid. Another key aspect of Jake's love language is forgiveness. When someone he cares about makes a mistake, Jake does not retreat or hold resentment. He forgives easily because he understands that everyone struggles with emotions, insecurities, and difficult decisions. Forgiveness allows love to continue growing. It prevents relationships from becoming fragile. Jake sees forgiveness not as an obligation, but as an act of affection. It keeps the emotional connection open and healthy. Jake also expresses love through patience. Emotional growth takes time, and Jake never rushes it. He gives his loved ones space to move at their own pace. This patience is especially important when he supports Finn. Finn grows emotionally in unpredictable ways, sometimes struggling with feelings that are difficult to articulate. Jake's patience becomes a grounding force. It communicates that love is not conditional on emotional stability. It exists even in chaos. Another subtle expression of Jake's love language is his ability to remember the little things that matter to others. He notices preferences, habits, and desires. He tailors his kindness to these details. This attentiveness allows him to give gifts or affection in ways that others find unexpectedly meaningful. Jake does not make a show of remembering. He simply holds these details in his heart. Jake's acts of service also reveal his love language. He helps his loved ones with tasks that overwhelm them. He supports them during difficult situations. He steps into practical roles when needed. Yet he never makes these acts feel transactional. He offers help with ease, showing that love for him is intertwined with action. Service becomes a natural way of expressing care. Jake also expresses love by sharing his internal world. Though he is relaxed, he does not hide his feelings. He opens himself emotionally with the people he trusts. He talks about his worries, his hopes, and his reflections. This openness invites others to share their inner lives as well. Emotional transparency becomes a mutual ritual that strengthens relationships. One of the warmest parts of Jake's love language is the way he celebrates the individuality of others. He does not attempt to mold people into his preferences. He appreciates them as they are. He encourages their unique qualities. He enjoys the things that make them different. This acceptance is a profound form of love. It communicates that people do not need to change themselves to be worthy of affection. Jake's love language also includes protection. though he practices it with balance. He protects those he loves during danger, but he does not overstep. He understands that protection must not undermine independence. He steps in when needed and steps back when appropriate. This balanced protection shows deep emotional intelligence. It expresses love without smothering. The rituals of connection Jake builds are often simple, yet they carry immense significance. Eating together, napping together, talking quietly, sharing music, walking in comfortable silence. These moments build emotional intimacy without effort. Jake knows that love does not require spectacle. It requires presence, sincerity, and time. Jake's low-pressure approach to love allows relationships to thrive. His emotional consistency prevents fear or insecurity from taking root. People who love Jake feel safe, both emotionally and physically. They know he will show up. They know he will support them. They know his affection will not vanish unpredictably. This stability contributes to his role as one of the emotional pillars of U. Jake's love language is also influenced by his spiritual acceptance of impermanence. He understands that moments pass, people grow, and circumstances change. His love remains steady through all of it. He does not fear emotional evolution. Instead, he welcomes it. This openness allows his relationships with Finn, Lady Rainicorn, his children, and his friends to mature naturally. His love does not trap people in a fixed version of themselves. It moves with them. When you examine Jake's love language closely, you see a pattern rich with emotional maturity. His love is not loud, controlling, or demanding. It is gentle, accepting, patient, warm, and adaptive. It centers connection rather than performance. It builds trust quietly. It fosters growth without pressure. Through his love language, Jake becomes one of the most emotionally nurturing characters in Adventure Time. He shows that love is not always expressed through intensity. It can be expressed through ease. It can be expressed through stillness. It can be expressed through laughter and shared silence. Jake's love language becomes a reminder that connection grows through consistency and care. It shows that love can be peaceful, gentle, and soft, while still being powerful and transformative. Jake's love language forms an essential part of his emotional blueprint. It shapes every relationship he touches. It creates harmony where there might otherwise be tension. It stabilizes those who feel uncertain. It encourages those who feel lost. Through Jake, love becomes a presence that nourishes the heart without overwhelming it. It becomes a steady flow that supports people through joy, change, fear, and growth. Jake the dog lives by a moral compass that is subtle, flexible, and rooted in compassion. It does not announce itself through rigid principles or strict codes. Jake does not speak in philosophical terms or frame his choices with dramatic conviction. Instead, he navigates moral questions with intuition, relational awareness, and an empathy shaped through a lifetime of unusual experiences. His moral wisdom is not loud or forceful. It moves like everything else within him, calm and natural, shaped by love rather than ideology. Jake's morality begins with how he understands the emotional world. He recognizes that people act from their feelings long before they act from logic. Because he sees this truth clearly, he does not judge others harshly. He does not view mistakes as failures of character. He sees them as expressions of confusion, fear, or hurt. This soft interpretation allows him to hold compassion for people even when their actions cause harm. He believes that the emotional truth under the surface matters more than the visible behavior. This belief shapes how he handles conflict, disappointment, and ethical tension. His bond with Finn reflects this moral approach. When Finn makes choices that Jake disagrees with or finds risky, Jake does not lecture him. He does not impose his own moral framework. Instead, he offers perspective gently. He shares his thoughts in a way that respects Finn's autonomy. Jake understands that Finn's moral journey belongs to Finn, not to him. Jake's moral wisdom makes him a guide rather than an enforcer. His guidance creates space for growth rather than pressure for conformity. This is an important distinction. Guidance invites understanding. Enforcement invites fear. Jake's compass also points toward kindness as a foundational principle. He chooses kindness instinctively. He approaches people with patience, even when they behave unpredictably. He believes in giving second chances. He believes in softening tension rather than fueling it. Kindness shapes how he interprets the motives of others. He rarely assumes malice. He assumes complexity. This generosity allows him to see past surface-level behavior and into the emotional needs that drive others. His kindness is not naive, it is wise. It contributes to emotional safety in relationships and reduces unnecessary conflict. Another core part of Jake's moral wisdom is his understanding that balance is essential. He does not expect perfection from others or from himself. He knows that emotions fluctuate, mistakes happen, and pressure can distort judgment. Instead of holding himself or others to impossible standards, he looks for equilibrium. When Finn swings into emotional extremes, Jake brings him back to center. When his friends fall into self-doubt or fear, Jake grounds them with calm reassurance. His moral philosophy relies on balance between compassion and clarity, between forgiveness and accountability. Jake also carries a deep respect for autonomy. He does not believe that moral decisions should be controlled by someone else. He understands that morality grows through experience, not instruction. His respect for autonomy appears when he steps back and allows others to follow their emotional instincts. He knows that people must make their own choices in order to learn from them. This respect strengthens his relationships because it shows trust. People trust Jake in return because he does not impose himself on their inner journeys. Even Jake's sense of justice is gentle. He does not seek punishment, he seeks understanding. When someone behaves harmfully, Jake looks for the emotional wound beneath the action. He asks what that person needs rather than what they deserve. This perspective helps him avoid resentment. Jake does not hold grudges because he does not view harm as a permanent reflection of character. He sees it as a temporary state that can change through connection, patience, and growth. Jake's moral compass is also influenced by his magical nature. His shape-shifting abilities give him unusual perspective. Because he can literally change shape, he understands that identity is fluid. This flexibility translates into his moral worldview. He does not believe that a person's past defines their future. He does not see identity as fixed. He accepts that people evolve. This belief allows him to forgive easily and support transformation. It also helps him avoid the rigid moral judgments that trap others in patterns of blame. His moral wisdom becomes clearer when he interacts with characters who operate from different moral frameworks. With Princess Bubblegum, Jake observes a rational and sometimes strict ethical approach. With Marceline, he observes a morally complex figure shaped by centuries of experience. With his children, he witnesses emerging moral identities that develop at an unusual pace. Jake adapts to each dynamic with respect. He does not impose one moral style onto another. This adaptability shows that his own moral compass is flexible. It shifts to meet the emotional and relational needs of the moment. Jake's internal sense of responsibility also shapes his moral decisions. He cares deeply for the people around him, and this care drives him to act when necessary. He does not seek leadership, but he steps into it when the situation requires. His moral compass guides him toward protection rather than dominance. He does not fight because he wants to win. He fights because someone he loves needs him. His moral strength appears as service rather than control. Another important part of Jake's moral blueprint is his approach to truth. He values honesty, but he is thoughtful about how he shares it. He understands that truth without compassion can be harmful. He waits for the right moment, the right tone, and the right emotional environment. His honesty is shaped by empathy rather than righteousness. This makes his moral guidance gentle and trustworthy. Jake's moral wisdom also reveals itself in how he handles regret. He does not dwell on mistakes, but he does learn from them. He apologizes sincerely when he hurts someone. He makes amends without defensiveness. This accountability strengthens his relationships. It shows that his moral compass points toward growth rather than perfection. Jake demonstrates that morality is not static. It evolves through self-reflection, openness, and humility. Jake's philosophy also includes a deep acceptance of impermanence. He understands that nothing remains the same. This acceptance influences his moral choices. He does not cling to old grievances or old expectations. He allows relationships to evolve without forcing them into fixed shapes. He adapts his moral posture to the present moment, rather than leaning too heavily on the past. His moral compass is also grounded in gratitude. Jake appreciates his life. He appreciates his relationships. Gratitude prevents him from falling into resentment or cynicism. It allows him to approach others with openness rather than suspicion. Gratitude becomes a moral resource that strengthens his compassion and his emotional patience. His moral wisdom includes one more quiet element: restraint. Jake knows when not to act. He knows when silence is kinder than speech. He knows when stepping back is wiser than stepping forward. This restraint requires emotional maturity. It shows that Jake's moral compass is not driven by impulse, it is driven by awareness. Restraint allows him to protect relationships during delicate moments. It prevents unnecessary conflict. It creates emotional space for others to reach their own insights. Jake's moral philosophy grows naturally from the same qualities that shape every part of his emotional blueprint. It grows from ease, from acceptance, from emotional intelligence, and from a deep, gentle loyalty. It grows from his lived experiences and from the strange, magical nature of his life. Jake's moral compass is neither rigid nor vague. It is clear without being harsh. It is compassionate without being naive. It is flexible without losing integrity. In the wider world of Jake's moral wisdom becomes a stabilizing force. Characters who struggle with their identity find comfort in his acceptance. Characters who feel overwhelmed find safety in his calmness. Characters who lose their way find direction through his quiet insights. Jake rarely delivers grand moral lessons, yet he lives them every day. His presence teaches others how to navigate moral questions with grace rather than fear. Jake's moral wisdom shows that goodness does not need to be dramatic. It does not need to be strict. It does not need to be loud. Goodness can be soft, it can be nurturing, it can be thoughtful, it can adapt without losing its center. Jake embodies this truth gently and consistently. In the end, Jake's moral compass reveals one of the deepest parts of his emotional blueprint. It reflects his belief in kindness, autonomy, emotional understanding, patience, forgiveness, and the natural evolution of life. His moral world is spacious and inclusive. It allows others to be imperfect. It allows relationships to grow. It transforms conflict into opportunities for understanding. Jake shows that moral wisdom can look like ease, like laughter, like patience, like showing up, like stepping back, like listening, and like trusting that people are capable of growth. Through him, morality becomes something warm and human. It becomes a path walked with compassion rather than fear. It becomes a reflection of love. Jake the dog is known for his humour, his silliness, and his love of fun. It is easy to look at his playfulness and mistake it for childishness or avoidance. But Jake's playfulness is a core part of his emotional intelligence. It is not a distraction from life. It is a way of moving through life with adaptability, gentleness, and intuition. His humour is not random. It is grounded in his deep awareness of the emotional states of the people around him. Jake's playfulness becomes a tool for connection, healing, and understanding. Playfulness in Jake's world is not an escape. It is a way of engaging with others. He approaches relationships with a light heart, knowing that tension can make people close themselves off. His playfulness opens hearts rather than closing them. It helps others relax, breathe, and feel seen. Through humour and creativity, he creates emotional bridges that make communication easier. Jake's intelligence is not analytical. It is intuitive. His playfulness becomes a form of empathy without needing explanations. One of the clearest expressions of this playfulness appears in his relationship with Finn. Finn often experiences emotions intensely. His highs are energetic and bright, and his lows are heavy and overwhelming. Jake senses these emotional shifts without needing words. When Finn feels anxious or discouraged, Jake uses humour to soften the emotional weight. A small joke, a silly face, or a playful transformation reminds Finn that he is not alone. Jake's humour does not deny Finn's feelings. It sits beside them, offering relief without invalidation. Jake also uses playfulness as a form of guidance. He teaches Finn through games, imagination, and creative thinking. Instead of lecturing him or imposing rigid rules, Jake frames many lessons through playful exploration. This approach makes learning feel natural rather than burdensome. It allows Finn to absorb wisdom at his own pace. Jake understands that creativity helps people process complex emotions more easily. When Finn needs to understand a moral question or navigate emotional confusion, Jake often creates scenarios that allow Finn to explore his feelings indirectly. This playful mentorship builds emotional resilience. Jake's ability to lighten a moment is also connected to how he processes emotion internally. He rarely lets emotions overwhelm him because he knows how to keep them moving. Humour helps him release pressure before it builds into something heavy. His playfulness becomes a form of emotional ventilation. It keeps his internal world balanced. He knows how to use play to diffuse fear, soften sadness, and calm stress. This does not mean he refuses to feel serious emotions. Instead, he gives them space, while also offering himself gentle relief. In his relationship with Lady Rainicorn, playfulness becomes a shared language. They enjoy each other's presence, not through constant emotional analysis, but through simple moments of fun and affection. Jake expresses love through jokes, gentle teasing, and creative moments. Their bond thrives on this balance between comfort and play. Lady Rainicorn appreciates Jake's ability to keep their relationship warm without tightening it with emotional pressure. Jake's playfulness makes their partnership feel alive, dynamic, and genuine. Jake's playfulness is also evident in his interactions with his children. Their fast growth could create emotional distance, but Jake bridges that gap with humor and imagination. He meets them where they are, not through control, but through engagement. Play becomes communication. It becomes bonding. Even when his children surpass him in maturity or capabilities, Jake's playfulness allows him to maintain a strong connection. He respects their individuality while also offering moments of lightness. This creates a loving environment where emotional expression feels natural rather than forced. Another dimension of Jake's playfulness is his creativity. He uses his shape-shifting in humorous and imaginative ways, not only for utility. This creativity helps him adapt to unpredictable situations with confidence. When others feel overwhelmed by uncertainty, Jake's playfulness prevents paralysis. It encourages exploration. It invites experimentation. It opens the emotional space needed for problem solving. Play keeps him flexible, both physically and emotionally. His creativity helps him find solutions that others cannot see because they are trapped in rigid thinking. Jake's humor also contains emotional intuition. He knows when a joke will help and when it will not. He knows when someone needs laughter and when they need silence. His timing is sensitive rather than careless. This sensitivity makes his playfulness feel safe. People trust that Jake will not make light of their vulnerabilities. He reads the emotional climate before acting. This reading is not conscious analysis. It comes from his natural ability to feel the emotional energy of a moment. Playfulness also becomes a way for Jake to maintain closeness in his friendships. With characters like Marceline, his light-heartedness builds comfort. Their interactions often feel like two people who enjoy each other's presence without needing intensity. Jake's humor creates a sense of ease that relaxes even the most guarded individuals. Marceline, who carries centuries of emotional complexity, responds to Jake's playfulness because it brings levity to her world. His humor invites her into moments of softness. Jake's playfulness also influences how he sees danger. Many characters tense up and prepare for the worst. Jake often approaches danger with a mixture of caution and humor. This does not mean he is careless. Instead, it allows him to remain emotionally calm. His humor prevents fear from overwhelming his clarity. He turns danger into something manageable. He interprets it through a lens of curiosity and creativity rather than panic. This emotional resilience helps him protect the people he loves. This same playfulness shows up in how he interprets mistakes. Jake does not judge himself harshly when he makes an error. He laughs at himself, not in a dismissive way, but in a forgiving way. His humor becomes a mirror that reflects kindness back at his own imperfections. This internal forgiveness inspires others to treat themselves with the same softness. He teaches those around him that mistakes are part of life, not marks of failure. Playfulness becomes a form of emotional healing. Jake's playful intelligence also appears in how he faces boredom or monotony. He does not allow still moments to become stagnant. He fills them with imagination. This imagination keeps his spirit active. It prevents emotional dullness. It refreshes him. Even when nothing is happening, Jake finds ways to keep his inner world lively. This imaginative play contributes to his emotional balance. It keeps him expressive, curious, and open to new experiences. His humour also protects him from cynicism. In a world as complex and sometimes dark as ooh, cynicism is understandable. But Jake's playfulness prevents him from falling into emotional rigidity. He uses humour to maintain perspective. He does not ignore difficult realities, but he refuses to let them harden him. His playfulness becomes a shield made from warmth rather than denial. It keeps his heart light. Jake's emotional intelligence is also evident in how he uses play to navigate conflict. When tension begins to build between people, Jake sometimes diffuses it with a gentle joke or a playful gesture. This does not replace real communication. Instead, it creates the emotional space necessary for meaningful discussion. People open up more easily when tension is softened. Jake's playfulness creates openings for honesty. Another subtle expression of Jake's playfulness is his refusal to take himself too seriously. He is confident, but his confidence does not come from ego. It comes from self-acceptance. He knows he is imperfect. He knows he does not have all the answers. His humour reflects humility. This humility makes his emotional intelligence even stronger. People feel comfortable around someone who does not mask insecurity with arrogance. Jake's playful intelligence also connects to his understanding of emotional boundaries. He knows when someone is not ready for humour. He senses when play might overwhelm rather than comfort. He respects those boundaries gently. His playfulness never becomes intrusive. It adapts to the emotional needs of the person he is engaging with. This adaptability shows his sensitivity. Playfulness helps Jake remain resilient in ways that are easy to underestimate. Emotional tension, stress, and fear become lighter when approached with levity. Jake does not deny these emotions. He acknowledges them and then allows humour to soften their grip. This balance keeps him grounded. It prevents emotional burnout. It keeps his spirit warm. Jake's creativity and humour also shaped him as a child and shaped how he perceives the world now. His early life was filled with unusual events and magical influences. Play helped him make sense of experiences that would overwhelm someone else. He learned to use imagination to navigate strangeness. This skill continues into adulthood, allowing him to face the unfamiliar with confidence. Playfulness becomes a lifelong tool for emotional integration. Jake's playfulness also influences how he supports people who are grieving. He knows that grief does not disappear when laughter enters the room, but he also knows that grief becomes easier to bear when someone reminds you that joy still exists. Jake brings gentle humour into sadness. He does not force cheerfulness. He offers small sparks of warmth to help ease the heaviness. This is one of the most compassionate uses of humour. It honours grief while offering comfort. When you look deeply into Jake's emotional blueprint, you see that his playfulness is not separate from his wisdom. It is one of the ways he expresses his intelligence. It is a language he uses to communicate care, empathy, insight, and connection. His playfulness is grounded, intentional, and emotionally aware. It strengthens relationships, softens pain, and brings joy into difficult moments. It helps others feel safe enough to be themselves. Jake's playfulness also highlights his belief that life should be lived with lightness whenever possible. He understands that joy is not something to postpone until after responsibilities are handled. Joy arrives when you make space for it. Jake makes that space naturally. His playfulness creates moments of joy that become part of the emotional structure of his relationships. In the end, Jake's playfulness is one of the most beautiful aspects of his emotional blueprint. It reveals his empathy, his intuitive wisdom, his creativity, and his natural ability to uplift others. It demonstrates that intelligence can be gentle, that emotional depth can be expressed through silliness, and that love can be communicated through laughter. Jake shows that play is not immaturity. It is an expression of resilience and heart. Through his playfulness, Jake teaches that joy is not separate from emotional depth, it is part of it. Play becomes a form of connection that helps people grow, heal, and feel understood. Jake embodies this truth with warmth and sincerity. His humour is not a mask. It is a gift that brings comfort to those who walk beside him and reveals the quiet brilliance within his heart. Time behaves differently in U. It stretches, spirals, collapses, and reshapes itself around magic, memory, and consequence. Characters experience it in ways that are sometimes linear and sometimes entirely fluid. Finn grows with visible, emotional leaps. Princess Bubblegum moves through centuries of responsibility. Marceline carries the weight of ages. In the middle of all these temporal complexities stands Jake the dog, whose relationship with time is gentle, accepting, and quietly profound. Jake lives in time as if it were a river, not a series of fixed moments to analyze or conquer. He understands that time moves forward no matter what, so he chooses to float with it rather than resist its current. This acceptance is one of the most defining aspects of his emotional blueprint. It shapes how he handles change, how he processes memory, how he thinks about the future, and how he supports the people he loves. Jake does not fear the passage of time. He does not cling to youth or resist maturity. Even when he reflects on how life has changed, he does so with warmth instead of longing. His memories bring comfort rather than nostalgia. They remind him of who he has been, but they do not trap him in who he used to be. This gentle relationship with memory creates emotional stability. Jake honors the past without letting it hold him in place. His inner life flows the way his magic does, stretching to fit the shape of the moment. This calm acceptance makes him different from Finn, whose experience of time is intense and emotional. Finn often confronts time with urgency, trying to grow, heal, understand, or fix things quickly. Jake, on the other hand, gives himself and others permission to move at the pace that feels natural. He does not pressure Finn to grow faster. He does not worry when things take longer than expected. This patience comes from his understanding that time guides growth in ways that cannot be forced. Jake's emotional presence becomes a steadying influence on Finn's journey. Jake's magical nature contributes to his unique perspective. Because his body can stretch, shrink, and reshape itself in defiance of typical physical limits, Jake naturally feels less constrained by time. His experiences are not bound by strict rules of biology or aging. This shapes a worldview where time feels flexible rather than rigid. Even when he eventually confronts the reality of aging, he does not panic. He allows time to move naturally, trusting that whatever comes will be something he can adapt to. Jake's easy relationship with time also affects how he plans for the future. He is not driven by long-term goals or distant ambitions. He does not map out his life with strict structure. Instead, he trusts that the future will unfold in the right way. He walks into it with openness instead of fear. This does not mean Jake lacks responsibility. It means he understands that time cannot be controlled. He embraces unpredictability and finds comfort in the freedom it brings. This acceptance becomes especially meaningful in his relationship with Lady Rainicorn. Their partnership evolves as time moves them forward. New stages arrive quietly and naturally. Jake never rushes the relationship and never slows it down. He lets it grow according to its own rhythm. Their love deepens with time, not because they force themselves into predetermined roles, but because they allow each other to change. Jake understands that love must move with time, not against it. Jake's fatherhood also reveals the depth of his relationship with time. His children grow at a pace that defies expectation, leaping through developmental stages in moments rather than years. Many parents might feel grief at how quickly childhood disappears. Jake does feel the emotional weight of this speed, but he meets it with acceptance. He does not cling to the early days or try to hold his children in a moment that no longer exists. Instead, he celebrates each new phase of their growth. He adjusts his role again and again, allowing time to guide the evolution of their relationship. His flexibility becomes a form of love. Another aspect of Jake's relationship with time is his ability to remain fully present. Many characters become lost in the past or anxious about the future. Jake stays grounded in the moment. He experiences the present with clarity and appreciation. This presence makes him emotionally available in ways that others struggle to match. He gives his full attention to the people he loves. He notices small details. He enjoys simple pleasures. He listens closely. His ability to anchor himself in the present becomes one of his greatest strengths. This present-focused mindset helps him avoid emotional overwhelm. When life becomes complicated, Jake does not try to process everything at once. He experiences what is in front of him and trusts that the rest will unfold in time. This trust keeps him calm even when situations are uncertain. He does not rush towards solutions. He waits for clarity to arrive. His emotional patience is not passivity, it is wisdom. It allows him to move forward with intention rather than panic. Jake's memories also reveal his emotional intelligence. He revisits the past with affection rather than regret. He acknowledges mistakes without letting them define him. He recalls joyful moments without letting them overshadow the present. His relationship with memory is balanced. He holds on to what matters and lets go of what does not. This balance prevents emotional stagnation. It allows his heart to remain open to new experiences. Even Jake's sadness moves through him in a healthy way. When time brings loss or change, he feels it fully. He does not suppress sorrow. He does not pretend to be unaffected. But he does not allow sadness to become permanent. Jake lets grief flow through him the way a river moves through a landscape. It shapes him gently, leaving room for happiness to return. This ability to let emotions move with time prevents emotional scars from hardening into bitterness. Jake's moral wisdom intersects with his understanding of time as well. He knows that people grow through mistakes. He allows them the time they need to change. He does not expect instant transformation. When someone hurts him or someone he loves, Jake does not jump to conclusions. He gives them time to explain themselves, time to process, and time to repair the relationship. This patience deepens his compassion. Jake's humor also reflects his relationship with time. He uses humor to lighten moments that feel heavy, giving people a brief escape from emotional weight. Humor creates pauses, breaks, and emotional space. These pauses help people breathe. They help people feel capable of handling the moment. Jake's humor slows down the emotional pace of tense situations. It reminds everyone that they do not need to rush through their feelings. They can take their time. Jake's approach to danger shows another dimension of his temporal wisdom. When others react immediately with fear or urgency, Jake often pauses long enough to consider the best response. His ability to slow the moment internally helps him think creatively. He meets danger with clarity instead of panic. This does not mean he ignores risk. It means he refuses to let time pressure force him into impulsive choices. His internal sense of timing is steady and intuitive, helping him make decisions that keep others safe. Jake's relationship with time also influences how he relates to the natural world. He appreciates the cycles of life. He understands that seasons change, relationships evolve, and identities shift. He does not resist these cycles. He embraces them. This acceptance gives him a peaceful quality that others rely on. He becomes someone who can move through transitions without losing his sense of self. Another layer of Jake's temporal wisdom appears in his relationship with patience. Jake knows that emotional truths often reveal themselves slowly. He does not chase answers. He waits for them to surface. Patience becomes a form of emotional intelligence. It allows him to understand people more deeply than if he rushed to conclusions. His emotional clarity grows because he allows time to do its work. Jake's worldview contains a quiet philosophy. Time is not the enemy. It is a companion. He treats time as something that walks beside him, rather than something he must outrun. This philosophy allows him to remain steady in moments that would shake others. It gives him emotional endurance. It helps him support others without becoming overwhelmed. Jake's dreams and imagination also connect to his internal sense of time. His inner world moves freely between memory, fantasy, and possibility. These realms merge without conflict. Jake experiences imagination as a continuation of emotional reality. This fluid relationship with internal time strengthens his creativity and supports his emotional resilience. It helps him navigate situations that otherwise might feel overwhelming. Jake's emotional blueprint reveals that he understands something simple but powerful. Time brings growth. Whether the growth is joyful, painful, unexpected, or quiet, Jake trusts that it has purpose. He does not try to control its pace. He moves with it. He adapts. He listens. He feels. This trust in time helps him remain grounded, even during moments of uncertainty. Jake's relationship with time also influences how he views his place in the world. He does not try to carve his identity into stone. He knows he will continue to change. His acceptance of this change makes him emotionally flexible. He evolves without hesitation. He welcomes new roles, new challenges, new relationships, and new insights. His sense of self is not threatened by change. It is strengthened by it. This flexible relationship with identity helps him support others who struggle with their own transformations. When Finn, Marceline, or Princess Bubblegum undergo shifts in their emotional lives, Jake understands them intuitively. He knows that their growth takes time. He does not demand that they stay the same. He moves with them. His companionship adapts to their evolving selves. Jake's temporal wisdom becomes most clear when you consider how he approaches endings. He does not fear them. He does not deny them. When something concludes, whether it is a moment, a phase of life, or an emotional chapter, Jake honors it. He appreciates what it gave him and leaves space for what comes next. This acceptance prevents grief from turning into despair. It allows him to hold love for what was without resisting what is becoming. In the end, Jake's relationship with time is one of the deepest parts of his emotional blueprint. It reveals a character who moves with life rather than against it. It shows a heart that trusts the natural rhythms of growth, change, and transformation. His temporal wisdom becomes a source of comfort for everyone around him. Through him, others learn to breathe, to wait, to trust, and to feel without fear. Jake teaches that time does not need to be conquered. It needs to be lived. It needs to be experienced with openness, patience, and love. His emotional world flows with time, carrying him gently along the river of life, and through this, he becomes one of the most grounded and emotionally mature characters in Adventure Time. Jake the dog is one of the most emotionally resilient figures in Adventure Time. His relaxed attitude, warm humour, and gentle approach to life sometimes make it seem as though sadness does not cling to him the way it does to others. But this idea is misleading. Jake feels loss and emotional heaviness just as deeply as anyone else. The difference lies in how he moves through these internal landscapes. He processes difficult emotions without letting them harden him or drain his spirit. He understands sadness, confusion, discomfort, and grief as natural parts of being alive. His emotional blueprint includes a quiet sophistication that allows him to hold pain without letting it distort his sense of self. Jake's relationship with loss begins with acceptance. He does not hide from uncomfortable feelings or try to push them away. Instead, he acknowledges them as visitors, not enemies. This outlook allows him to experience emotional pain without being consumed by it. He trusts that feelings change over time, and that trying to control or resist them often makes them heavier. Jake's calmness is not apathy. It is emotional confidence. He believes feelings are meant to move through, not get stuck. This perspective becomes especially meaningful when contrasted with Finn's emotional experience. Finn approaches sadness with intensity. He wants to understand it, confront it, or solve it. Jake, meanwhile, allows sadness to unfold naturally. When Finn feels emotional turmoil, Jake sits with him in it. He does not try to fix everything. He offers presence before solutions. This helps Finn learn that pain does not need to be defeated immediately. Sometimes it needs to be witnessed. Sometimes it needs time. Jake's quiet companionship becomes a balm, not because he eliminates discomfort, but because he eases the fear of experiencing it. Jake also handles loss with remarkable emotional balance. He understands that relationships shift and evolve. He knows that change often brings a mixture of joy and sadness. When something ends, Jake feels the ache, but he does not cling to what he cannot control. He trusts that endings are part of life's rhythm. This trust helps him move through grief without becoming resentful or closed off. Jake's ability to grieve gently reflects an inner sturdiness that does not collapse under emotional weight. His way of experiencing discomfort is similarly grounded. Jake rarely fights against discomfort. Instead, he adjusts around it. This ability mirrors his physical flexibility. Just as he can stretch his body to adapt to external challenges, he stretches his emotional world to accommodate internal challenges. His flexibility is not denial. It is adaptation. It allows him to hold discomfort without letting it overwhelm him. He gives himself the space needed to feel fully and recover gradually. Jake's relationship with fear also influences how he handles emotional weight. He does not treat fear as something shameful. He treats it as part of the emotional weather. When fear arrives, he lets it pass through. His emotional calmness makes fear smaller, not because it disappears, but because it loses its power to control him. Jake lives with the understanding that everything passes in time, both joyful moments and painful ones. This perspective softens difficult emotions. Jake's bond with Lady Rainicorn provides another window into his approach to loss and discomfort. Their relationship is steady, loving, and open, yet they face moments of uncertainty and tension. Jake handles these moments with gentleness. He does not react defensively or withdraw emotionally. When discomfort arises, he moves toward understanding rather than avoidance. This approach strengthens their relationship because it prioritizes emotional clarity and connection over self-protection. He recognizes that discomfort is sometimes a sign that deeper communication is needed, not a sign that something is wrong. Jake also demonstrates emotional resilience in his role as a father. His children grow faster than he ever expected. Their rapid maturity creates a sense of loss that arrives long before he is ready for it. Yet Jake meets this emotional challenge with grace. He feels the pang of seeing childhood vanish quickly, but he also celebrates who his children become. He accepts that he cannot slow time. Instead, he makes the most of each moment. This acceptance shows a profound understanding of how to live with emotional contradictions. Joy and sadness coexist in parenthood, and Jake allows both to exist without resistance. His reaction to difficult moral dilemmas also reflects his emotional maturity. Jake does not spiral into guilt or self-doubt when he makes mistakes. He acknowledges the discomfort, reflects, and moves forward. This fluid approach prevents internal heaviness from becoming stagnation. He takes responsibility, but he does not punish himself. His inner dialogue is compassionate. He learns rather than lingers. This approach encourages others to be gentle with themselves as well. Jake's humor is another tool that helps him handle emotional weight. Humor lightens the burden without minimizing the importance of the feeling. Laughter becomes a way to breathe during heaviness. It creates openings for clarity. It slows panic and releases tension. Jake's use of humor is wise rather than dismissive. He knows when a moment needs lightness and when it needs silence. His humor is a bridge between emotional discomfort and emotional comfort, helping others cross without feeling alone. His relationship with discomfort also shows up in his friendships. Jake listens without judgment. When someone shares pain with him, he absorbs it calmly. He does not rush toward optimism. He gives people the room to express sadness fully. His empathy creates a gentle container for the emotions of others. This capacity makes him a safe person to confide in. He does not fear the weight of other people's feelings. He carries them without becoming burdened because he knows how to let emotions flow through rather than lodge inside. Jake's emotional strength also comes from his acceptance of impermanence. He knows that pain, like joy, is temporary. This understanding does not lead him to ignore sadness. It helps him hold sadness with patience. He does not cling to emotions as if they define him. He experiences them without treating them as permanent truths. This flexible sense of self allows him to navigate grief and discomfort with ease, compared to characters who feel trapped by their emotions. His emotional approach is not about avoiding vulnerability. Jake embraces vulnerability. He shares his fears with those he trusts. He admits when he feels overwhelmed. He expresses sadness when it rises. This openness allows emotional weight to move through him rather than accumulate. Vulnerability becomes a pathway to connection. Jake understands that sharing pain often makes it lighter. This understanding deepens his relationships and strengthens his emotional core. Jake's emotional landscape reveals that he does not fear silence or stillness, even in difficult moments. Silence is a tool he uses to process feelings. He allows quiet space between emotions and responses. This prevents reactions that come from panic. It also allows him to feel emotions without rushing through them. Jake's stillness is healing. It becomes a place where pain softens, clarity forms, and perspective grows. His openness to emotional discomfort extends to his sense of responsibility. When he causes harm or makes a mistake, Jake does not hide from the emotional consequences. He approaches them with humility. He listens. He apologizes sincerely. He feels the discomfort rather than denying it. This ability to face uncomfortable truths strengthens his relationships. It shows that emotional weight does not scare him into avoidance. Jake's emotional intelligence also shapes how he responds to others' grief. He does not offer platitudes. He does not insist that everything will be fine. He stays close. He listens. He brings warmth without pressure. His presence becomes a shelter for those going through loss. Jake knows that grief is not something to fix. It is something to accompany. His companionship becomes a form of healing. Even Jake's dreams reflect his emotional relationship with heaviness. His inner world is vivid, creative, and sometimes strange, but it is rarely consumed by despair. When dreams carry difficult feelings, Jake experiences them as part of his emotional processing rather than as signs of instability. His dreams act as a quiet internal space where unresolved feelings find expression, allowing his waking self to remain balanced. Jake's handling of emotional weight is also tied to his sense of humor about himself. He does not take his identity so seriously that discomfort becomes shame. He laughs gently at his own flaws. This self-compassion prevents emotional heaviness from turning into self-criticism. His relationship with himself is soft. He treats his heart with the same tenderness he offers others. Jake also understands that emotional weight often sits beneath the surface of everyday interactions. He senses when someone is hiding pain and responds with curiosity rather than confrontation. His intuition allows him to gently pull emotional truths forward without forcing anyone to reveal more than they are ready for. This sensitivity helps deepen relationships and fosters trust. His relationship with the natural world reveals another part of his approach. Jake finds comfort in simple rituals, like lounging in the sun or listening to quiet sounds in nature. These small moments provide emotional release. They help him settle his thoughts. They remind him that the world continues to move gently, even when emotions become difficult. Nature becomes a partner in his emotional healing. Jake's approach to emotional heaviness also includes an understanding that not everything needs to be resolved immediately. Some feelings need to unfold slowly. Jake gives himself and others time. Time allows emotions to soften naturally. It allows clarity to appear. Jake trusts this process. His patience becomes an emotional anchor. In the end, Jake's way of handling loss, discomfort, and emotional weight reveals one of the deepest strengths in his emotional blueprint. He does not avoid pain. He welcomes it as part of life's balance. He feels fully, accepts gently, and recovers gradually. His resilience comes from his ability to let emotions move instead of trapping them inside. He uses humor as a release valve, presence as comfort, vulnerability as connection, and patience as healing. Jake shows that emotional strength does not always look like firmness. Sometimes it looks like softness. Sometimes it looks like quiet acceptance. Sometimes it looks like sitting still with someone in their sadness. Through Jake, emotional heaviness becomes something that can be carried without breaking, felt without drowning, and transformed over time into compassion, understanding, and peace. Jake the dog carries a calmness that feels almost spiritual. It is not rooted in doctrine, nor in mystical training, nor in any formal pursuit of enlightenment. Instead, it rises naturally from who he is. Jake's sense of meaning comes from a gentle trust in life. His worldview is shaped by intuition, openness, and an effortless understanding that existence does not need constant explanation to feel worthwhile. His spiritual composure becomes an unspoken part of his emotional blueprint. It guides him through uncertainty, deepens his relationships, and makes him a source of comfort to those around him. Jake does not question the meaning of life with urgency. He does not wrestle with existential dread. He does not search for answers through relentless introspection. Instead, he lives with acceptance. He wakes up each day and enters it with curiosity and warmth. He finds meaning in experiences rather than abstractions. This ability to root himself in the present gives him a clarity that feels rare in Ooh, a world where many characters struggle with purpose, identity, and existential fear. Jake's spiritual calm begins with his understanding that life unfolds whether or not you try to control it. He senses that meaning emerges naturally when you pay attention to the people around you, the small joys that appear throughout the day, and the rhythms of change. He trusts that life has a flow. Trying to push too hard against that flow only creates tension. Moving with it brings peace. Jake's intuition tells him that life does not need to be solved, it needs to be lived. This idea shapes how he approaches relationships. Jake does not demand that friendships or love follow a predetermined path. He allows connection to grow through shared moments and emotional ease. He does not analyze the meaning of relationships as they form. He trusts that the meaning will reveal itself over time. This trust creates space for deep bonds to form naturally. His calm presence invites others into a sense of peace they struggle to find on their own. Jake's relationship with Finn reflects the most visible expression of this quiet spirituality. Finn searches for meaning actively. He looks for purpose in quests, in choices, in relationships, and in his own identity. Jake gives Finn room to explore these questions while offering a steady emotional foundation. Jake's calmness does not dismiss Finn's search. Instead, it balances it. Through Jake, Finn is reminded that meaning is not always found in answers. Sometimes it is found in companionship, in shared laughter, or in a quiet moment when someone sits beside you without judgment. Jake's spiritual calm also shapes the way he interprets himself. He does not question whether he is good enough or whether he has fulfilled some grand destiny. He accepts himself as he is. He understands his strengths and his limitations without dramatizing them. This acceptance becomes a form of wisdom. It prevents insecurity from clouding his emotional world. Jake lives in harmony with himself, and this internal harmony spills into every area of his life. His magical nature contributes to this perspective. Being able to stretch, shrink, and reshape himself means that physical transformation is normal for him. Because of this, existential questions about identity or permanence feel less threatening. His body teaches him that change is not loss, it is adaptation. This physical truth translates into spiritual understanding. Jake believes that the essence of life remains stable even when circumstances shift. This belief frees him from anxiety about the future or regret about the past. Jake's connection to Lady Rainicorn also reveals his spiritual depth. Their relationship is warm, balanced, and rooted in mutual respect. Jake does not worry about where their relationship ranks in some grand cosmic sense. He focuses on their daily life together. He appreciates her presence, her voice, her joy, and her comfort. His love is grounded in the present moment. This present-focused love feels spiritual because it honors connection without needing definitions. Jake finds meaning in the act of loving, not in searching for reasons to love. Parenthood deepens his spiritual calm even further. When Jake becomes a father, he experiences change that arrives rapidly and unpredictably. His children grow at impossible speed, passing through phases of development in ways he could never have anticipated. Instead of feeling shaken by the speed of their growth, Jake feels wonder. He experiences each moment as something precious, regardless of how brief it is. He does not grieve what he missed. He cherishes what he has. This acceptance reveals a profound understanding of impermanence. Jake finds meaning in each stage, rather than in holding on to a single version of his family. Jake's calm perspective shapes how he handles uncertainty. When faced with the unknown, he remains steady. He does not need to predict outcomes or create guarantees. He moves forward with patience and curiosity. This patience becomes one of his greatest emotional gifts. It reassures others that uncertainty does not have to be frightening. It can be an invitation to explore. Jake's composure becomes a quiet form of leadership. People trust him because he does not escalate fear or rush towards solutions. He remains grounded, and others find grounding in him. Jake's spiritual calm influences the way he interprets the natural world. He finds comfort in the simplest environments: sunlight, shade, grassy hills, quiet mornings, gentle sounds. Nature speaks to him in a language of peace. He listens without effort. These moments help him reconnect with himself, settle his emotions, and find perspective. Jake's appreciation for natural simplicity becomes a spiritual practice woven into his everyday life. His inner world reflects this natural clarity. Jake's dreams, imagination, and emotional reflections are fluid rather than rigid. He does not separate his internal and external experiences. They blend together in a way that keeps him emotionally balanced. He treats imagination as a doorway to understanding, not as an escape. This fluid internal life allows him to see meaning in places others overlook. Jake's calmness also shapes how he understands mortality. While he does not dwell on the idea, he accepts that life has a natural endpoint. He does not fear this truth. He acknowledges it gently, as part of the flow he already trusts. His acceptance of mortality shapes his appreciation for the present. He values moments deeply because he knows they cannot last forever. This awareness strengthens his love for his family and friends. It deepens his emotional presence. He does not rush through time, he savors it. Jake's peaceful relationship with meaning influences the way he offers guidance. When someone he loves feels lost, Jake does not hand them a rigid philosophy. He encourages them to listen inward. He offers small suggestions rooted in empathy. He does not pretend to have all the answers. Instead, he shares the wisdom of openness. Meaning, to Jake, is found by living fully in the moment and trusting that clarity will come when the heart is ready. This trust connects to his forgiveness. Jake does not hold on to resentment. He believes relationships can evolve, repair, and deepen with time. His forgiveness is an extension of his belief that life is always shifting. Holding on to anger blocks the natural flow of growth. Jake lets go of hurt not because he forgets it, but because he understands that attachment to pain creates unnecessary suffering. His forgiveness is gentle and patient. Jake's spiritual calm also shows up in how he interacts with characters who struggle deeply with their own purpose. Marceline carries centuries of emotional history. Princess Bubblegum holds heavy responsibility. Finn experiences intense emotional evolution. Jake does not try to direct their paths. He stands beside them, allowing them to discover their meaning without interference. His belief in their growth reflects his quiet faith in the natural unfolding of life. Another subtle element of Jake's spiritual worldview is his acceptance of mystery. He does not need to understand everything. He does not fear what he cannot explain. Mystery does not threaten him. It fascinates him. His comfort with not knowing gives him emotional freedom. Others seek clarity through analysis. Jake finds clarity through experience. This perspective helps him remain peaceful even when external circumstances are chaotic. Jake's inner calm creates a soft space where others can rest emotionally. His presence becomes a refuge, not because he solves problems for others, but because he makes space for them to breathe. His spiritual steadiness influences Finn especially. Finn learns through Jake that inner peace does not come from conquering the world. It comes from accepting yourself within it. Jake's approach to meaning is never preachy. He does not see himself as wise. He simply lives with honesty, ease, and compassion. His spiritual essence is humble. It emerges through his everyday choices, his laughter, his loyalty, his patience, his curiosity, and his gentle acceptance of the world as it is. Jake shows that meaning is not always something you find. Sometimes it is something you create by living kindly. His spirituality also shapes how he handles joy. Jake allows himself to feel joy without hesitation. He does not question whether he deserves it. He does not worry about it ending. He enjoys it fully in the moment. This wholehearted joy reveals his trust in the flow of life. Happiness is part of the river. When it arrives, Jake floats with it. When it leaves, he continues onward, trusting that joy will return. Jake's quiet spirituality becomes most clear when he supports others through their emotional crises. He does not force them to rise above their pain. He sits with them calmly. His presence communicates that suffering is not a failure, it is a part of the journey. Jake helps others feel safe enough to feel their emotions fully. His calmness becomes a form of healing. In the end, Jake's spiritual calm reveals a powerful truth about his emotional blueprint. He lives with trust rather than fear, openness rather than rigidity, presence rather than urgency. His sense of meaning comes from connection, from small joys, from quiet moments, from love, and from the gentle unfolding of life. He embodies a wisdom that does not need to be spoken to be felt. Jake teaches that peace is not something found outside the self. It grows from acceptance. It grows from kindness. It grows from trusting that life moves in rhythms that cannot be forced. Through Jake, meaning becomes something soft, warm, and accessible. His spiritual calm shows that even in a world of magic, chaos, and uncertainty, a gentle heart can create a sense of harmony that touches everyone around it. Jake the dog's magic is one of the most recognizable traits in Adventure Time. His body stretches, shrinks, morphs, and expands in ways that defy logic. He can transform into shapes as simple as a cube or as elaborate as a multi-limbed creature. His magic appears funny, playful, and sometimes surreal. Yet behind the visual humor lies something far more meaningful. Jake's identity as a magical being shapes his emotional life in profound ways. It informs how he sees himself, how he relates to others, and how he navigates the world's complexities. Jake did not choose a magical identity. He grew into it. From the moment he began understanding his abilities, Jake learned that his body did not follow the rules that governed others. This early experience shaped his emotional blueprint by teaching him that flexibility, adaptation, and change were not threats. They were natural. His magical identity became a foundation for his worldview, where transformation is not disruption but opportunity. This mindset explains much of his emotional ease. He does not resist change because his earliest experiences taught him that change is something his body understands instinctively. His shape-shifting ability introduced him to a sense of self that is not rigid. While many characters struggle with identity as something fixed or fragile, Jake sees identity as something fluid. He is not threatened by shifts in his role, his relationships, or his emotional state. His magic teaches him that he can adapt without losing the essence of who he is. This sense of fluid selfhood gives him emotional resilience. He can stretch emotionally the same way he stretches physically, finding shape even in unfamiliar situations. Jake's identity as a magical being also influences how he handles self-portrayal. Because he can shift into any form, he understands that outward appearance is not the core of identity. It is a tool, not a truth. This understanding protects him from insecurity. He does not worry about how others perceive him. He expresses himself without self-consciousness. His inner world remains stable because it is built on a deep trust in his own nature, independent of external shape. His magic also shapes his sense of autonomy. Jake has a rare ability to affect his environment through transformation. He can create bridges, shields, ladders, or protective barriers using only his body. This capability gives him confidence and a calm relationship with uncertainty. When others panic, Jake assesses. He knows that he can often find a creative solution simply by reshaping himself. This confidence influences his emotional world. It reduces fear and increases curiosity. It allows him to treat the unknown as something to navigate gently, rather than something to resist. Jake's bond with Finn becomes even more meaningful through this magical identity. Finn's body operates within the typical limitations of a human. He must use skill and bravery to face physical challenges. Jake's magic complements this, but Jake never uses his abilities to overshadow Finn. He uses them to support, to encourage, and to create shared possibilities. His magic becomes a form of love. It allows him to protect Finn, to inspire him, and to share adventures that would be impossible otherwise. His magical presence opens emotional and physical pathways for the two of them, shaping their dynamic into something uniquely balanced. Jake's identity as a magical being also influences his spiritual worldview. He knows his nature is unusual, unpredictable, and shaped by forces beyond ordinary understanding. Instead of fearing this, he treats it with curiosity. His magical talents help him remain open to mystery. He recognizes that not everything needs a complete explanation. This comfort with the unknown extends into his emotional relationships. When someone behaves mysteriously or feels complicated, Jake does not demand immediate clarity. His identity has taught him that some things take time to understand. Jake's shapeshifting also provides insight into how he experiences emotions. His body expresses playfulness, comfort, protection, and creativity. When Jake feels relaxed, he stretches out comfortably. When he feels playful, he transforms into amusing shapes. When he feels protective, he expands around others. His magic is not only physical, it is expressive. It becomes a language of emotion. This expressive capacity helps him process feelings without needing to verbalize everything. His entire being participates in his emotional life. This internal expression also reflects his emotional honesty. Jake hides very little. His emotional life is visible through his actions. His transformations communicate mood, comfort, or unease. When he feels anxious, he shrinks. When he feels ready to protect, he grows. When he feels silly, he becomes shapes that make others laugh. Because his body reflects his inner world, Jake learns not to mask his emotions. This transparency strengthens his relationships. Others trust him because his emotional truth is easy to read. His magical identity also influences his sense of responsibility. Though he enjoys leisure and comfort, Jake understands the weight of having abilities that can save lives. He tries to use his magic for the well-being of others. When danger arises, he responds without hesitation. He does not flaunt his power. He applies it with compassion. His magical strength becomes an extension of his emotional strength. This alignment between ability and heart gives him integrity. Jake's magic also teaches him humility. Despite his power, he does not view himself as superior. He treats everyone with equality and respect. His magical identity does not inflate his ego. Instead, it deepens his empathy. He sees how different life is for someone without his abilities, and he supports them gently. His magic becomes servant rather than master. It aligns with his emotional blueprint by reinforcing care rather than dominance. Jake's identity is also shaped by the mystery of his origins. Being the child of a magical creature and raised in an unconventional family gave him a childhood that existed outside typical rules. But Jake does not dwell on his origins with fear or confusion. He understands that identity is shaped by experience more than lineage. His mysterious beginnings fuel his comfort with ambiguity. They help him trust himself even when he cannot explain all aspects of his existence. His bond with Lady Rainicorn reflects the gentle integration of his magical identity into his emotional relationships. Lady Rainicorn also comes from a magical lineage. Their connection bridges cultures, languages, and abilities. Jake's magic allows him to meet her halfway. They interact not only through speech, but through shared experience of expanded physical possibility. Jake's magic helps him understand her world, just as her heritage adds depth to his. This shared magical foundation strengthens their bond. Their relationship grows from mutual understanding of non-ordinary life. Jake's magical nature also informs his creativity. His transformations allow him to visualize solutions instantly. Where others see barriers, Jake sees possibilities. This ability extends into his emotional world. When someone faces a problem, Jake does not confine his thinking to conventional approaches. He imagines alternative perspectives. His magic encourages fluid thinking. This creativity helps him guide others through emotional or practical obstacles with kindness and insight. His children's identities also reflect the significance of Jake's magical nature. Each child inherits a mixture of his abilities and Lady Rainicorn's heritage. Their rapid development challenges traditional ideas of childhood. Jake embraces their magical uniqueness with curiosity and pride. He does not treat magic as something strange or overwhelming. He treats it as part of their identity. This acceptance helps his children feel secure in who they are. Jake's approach shows that magical identity is not something to fear. It is something to celebrate, nurture, and integrate into everyday life. Jake's magic also reveals the fluidity of his emotional boundaries. He can stretch to include someone in a hug that wraps around their entire form. He can shield others by becoming a barrier. His physical expansion mirrors his emotional capacity. When someone he loves is hurting, Jake expands emotionally to hold space for their feelings. This ability to hold emotional space is one of the reasons his presence feels so comforting. His magical body and magical heart work together. Another subtle effect of Jake's magical identity is how it frees him from rigid self-concepts. He does not label himself with narrow definitions. He sees identity as something that evolves. This openness prevents existential crises. Characters who define themselves rigidly struggle when life disrupts their self-image. Jake avoids this turmoil because he never confines himself to a strict box. His magic continually reminds him that he can change shape. His identity is a living, breathing process. Jake's identity as a magical being also influences his sense of humor. His transformations create opportunities for playful expression. Humor becomes easier when every part of your body can participate in the joke. His magic enriches his light-heartedness and allows him to bring laughter into moments of seriousness. This humor is not superficial. It is a form of emotional resilience. Jake uses his magic to lift spirits and create emotional warmth. Jake's relationship with danger also reveals something important. He does not rely on his magic recklessly. He knows its limits. He respects its risks. This respect forms part of his emotional maturity. Magic does not create recklessness in him. It creates responsibility. Jake understands that emotional wisdom includes knowing when not to act. His magic does not override his judgment. It enhances it. Most importantly, Jake's magical identity teaches him that self-acceptance is essential. He embraces his abilities with pride, but without arrogance. He does not struggle with self-hatred or internal conflict about who he is. This acceptance becomes a model for others around him. Characters who wrestle with their identity find comfort in Jake's easy relationship with his own. He shows them that being different does not require explanation. It simply requires living sincerely. In the end, Jake's magical identity is not separate from his emotional blueprint. It grows from the same source. It shapes the soft wisdom that guides him, the flexibility that defines him, and the joy that flows through him. His magic teaches him to adapt, to embrace change, to see possibilities, and to love with openness. It strengthens his relationships and supports his gentle worldview. Jake does not wield magic with force. He lives it. He breathes it. He expresses it with care. Through him, magic becomes not just a power, but a metaphor for emotional resilience, creativity, and self-understanding. Jake shows that identity is fluid, that love adapts, and that emotional strength grows from acceptance rather than rigidity. His magical nature becomes a quiet guide that helps him walk through a complex world with grace, humor, and an ever-open heart. Jake the dog's identity is shaped by many roles, but none affects him as deeply or as quietly as fatherhood. Becoming a parent reveals aspects of his emotional world that might otherwise remain hidden. His love for Lady Rainicorn is sincere and warm, but it is his relationship with their children that draws forth a profound sense of responsibility, patience, and tenderness. Jake's family becomes a living reflection of his emotional blueprint. In their presence, his ease becomes nurturing, his playfulness becomes teaching, his flexibility becomes guidance, and his love becomes legacy. Fatherhood arrives in Jake's life with unusual speed. Lady Rainicorn's pregnancy, their children's rapid development, and the intense pace of magical growth create a parenting journey unlike anything typical. Yet Jake does not react with panic. He responds with wonder. He meets each stage with openness rather than resistance. His children grow faster than he can predict, reaching maturity in the time it takes most children to learn how to speak. This speed could create emotional distance, but Jake bridges it with presence. He recognizes that he cannot slow down time, so he chooses to honor every moment he receives. Each child possesses a blend of abilities from both lineages, creating a family dynamic rich with complexity and uniqueness. Jake does not attempt to impose strict expectations. Instead, he watches, listens, and adapts. His children flourish because they are given room to explore who they are without feeling pressured to meet a rigid parental vision. Jake's parenting style is rooted in acceptance. He understands that his role is not to shape them into fixed identities, but to support them as they discover their own. This acceptance reflects an emotional wisdom that Jake has cultivated over years of living with intuition and ease. He recognizes that parenthood is not an act of control, it is an act of accompaniment. His children have their own destinies, shaped by their magical nature and unique personalities. Jake's job is not to define those destinies. It is to walk beside them with love and curiosity. He provides stability not through strict structure, but through emotional consistency. Jake's relationship with each child is distinct. He does not treat them as a collective unit. He notices their differences, their strengths, their quirks, and their emotional needs. His parenting approach adjusts gently to match each temperament. One child may need encouragement, while another needs space. One seeks adventure, while another prefers quiet reflection. Jake senses these differences intuitively, responding without forcing them into a shared mold. His emotional flexibility becomes one of his greatest strengths as a father. The speed of his children's growth requires Jake to process emotions at an accelerated rate. Parents often have years to adjust to shifting dynamics, but Jake must adapt quickly. Every day brings change. Every day introduces a new version of his children. Yet this rapid evolution never weakens his bond with them. Instead, it intensifies his appreciation. He knows that time is fleeting, and he treasures the immediacy of their presence. With every new stage, he finds joy rather than grief. He embraces transition as part of the rhythm of their magical lives. Lady Rainicorn's role as a partner adds another layer to Jake's emotional family life. Their co-parenting dynamic thrives on balance. She provides cultural grounding and magical insight, while Jake brings emotional flexibility and gentle guidance. They trust each other's strengths. Jake never tries to dominate decisions or assert authority for its own sake. He supports Lady Rainicorn's instincts and perspectives, just as she supports his relaxed, intuitive style. Their family grows from a foundation of mutual respect, affection, and trust. Jake's emotional intelligence becomes particularly visible in the quiet moments of parenting. When one of his children expresses sadness, confusion, or uncertainty, Jake responds with tenderness. He comforts without questioning the validity of their feelings. His presence communicates safety. His ability to remain calm anchors them. Even though they grow quickly, their emotional experiences are genuine and sometimes overwhelming. Jake's role is to soften these moments, guiding them gently through complex feelings. His humor also becomes a powerful tool in fatherhood. Jake uses playfulness to help his children navigate challenges. He teaches through games, imagines new worlds with them, and encourages creativity. His shape-shifting abilities allow him to participate in their play with boundless imagination. He becomes mountains, creatures, landscapes, or soft cushions. Through this creative engagement, he builds emotional closeness. Play becomes a shared language that strengthens trust. Jake's magic also shapes his parenting. His ability to create structures, shields, or comforting shapes with his body allows him to care for his family in ways unique to him. He can provide physical safety through transformation, but he also uses his magic to create joy. His transformations entertain, comfort, and inspire. His children learn that magic is not only power, it is expression, it is support, it is love manifested in a visible, tangible form. Jake also teaches emotional boundaries in gentle ways. Even with his relaxed personality, he recognizes when guidance or correction is needed. His approach is soft rather than strict. He explains through stories or playful analogies. He models emotional regulation through his own behavior. His children learn from watching him navigate emotions calmly. They see how he handles frustration, how he apologizes when wrong, and how he treats others with respect. Jake's parenting is teaching by example, not by command. The emotional architecture of Jake's family life is also shaped by his understanding of independence. As his children grow into their own identities, Jake does not cling or hold them back. He releases them with love. This release is not detachment, it is trust. He believes in their ability to navigate the world. His calm acceptance gives his children confidence. They do not fear disappointing him. They do not feel pressured to remain close out of obligation. Their bond remains strong because it is built on choice, not control. Jake's family also deepens his emotional maturity. Parenthood requires reflection, adaptability, and acceptance. Jake learns as much from his children as they learn from him. Their presence teaches him patience, gratitude, and the beauty of impermanence. His emotional world expands through these lessons. He becomes more aware of responsibility, more attuned to the needs of others, and more connected to the passage of time. Jake's parenting also highlights his protective instincts. While he avoids unnecessary conflict, he steps into danger without pause when his children's safety is at risk. His love becomes courage. His calmness becomes determination. This protective strength is not loud or aggressive. It is grounded in devotion. Jake does not present himself as an unstoppable hero, but he rises with remarkable clarity when his family needs him. His courage is rooted in love rather than pride. At the same time, he understands that parenting does not end with protection. His goal is not to shield his children from every hardship, but to prepare them to face life with resilience. He gives advice softly, allowing them to learn through experience. He supports without smothering. He remains present without overshadowing. The balance he maintains is one of the most remarkable aspects of his emotional blueprint. Jake's relationship with Finn adds further depth to his parenting identity. Finn is not his biological child, but Jake helped raise him. This early experience shaped Jake's understanding of family as something built through love rather than lineage. It taught him how to support a young heart, how to guide without controlling, and how to nurture independence. These lessons carry into his roles as partner and father. Finn and Jake's bond is a blueprint for the warmth Jake later brings to his own magical family. Jake's emotional blueprint as a father includes a quiet acknowledgement of impermanence. He knows his children will grow, change, and eventually move on. He does not fight this truth. Instead, he embraces it. He treasures the time they share without demanding that it remain the same. This acceptance allows his family to flourish without emotional restriction. His children grow into themselves without fear of disappointing him. Their relationship remains strong because it is built on freedom. Jake's family reveals something essential about his heart. Beneath his humor and calm exterior lies a deep well of devotion. His ease is not laziness. It is a deliberate choice to create emotional softness in a world that often feels sharp. His playfulness is not immaturity. It is a way of nurturing connection. His patience is not passivity. It is understanding. His flexibility is not indecision. It is wisdom. Jake as a father demonstrates the fullest expression of his emotional blueprint. In his family, every part of his personality becomes purposeful. His magic becomes comfort. His humor becomes guidance. His calmness becomes stability. His love becomes the foundation of a home that celebrates individuality, curiosity, and emotional safety. In the end, Jake's family life stands as a testament to the quiet power of gentle fatherhood. He shows that love does not need to be dramatic. It needs to be present. It needs to be consistent. It needs to adapt. Jake creates an emotional environment where his children feel free to grow, where his partner feels supported, and where he himself becomes the most whole version of who he is. Jake teaches that fatherhood is not defined by control, perfection, or authority. It is defined by attention, acceptance, and warmth. Through his family, Jake becomes a living example of how emotional intelligence shapes not only relationships, but legacy. His children inherit not just magic, but a model of love grounded in ease, curiosity, and quiet resilience. Legacies in U are often tied to power, dramatic events, or ancient histories. Some characters leave marks through battles or inventions or vast kingdoms. Others leave behind stories that echo across generations. Jake the dog's legacy is quieter, woven not through dominance or grandeur, but through relationships, emotional intelligence, and the countless small moments of comfort he brought into the world. Jake's legacy forms through presence rather than proclamation. It resides in hearts rather than monuments. His emotional imprint becomes one of the most enduring parts of Adventure Time's fabric. Jake's legacy begins with the simple truth of how he lived. He moved through life with curiosity, kindness, and an unshakable sense of ease. He gave warmth where others brought tension. He offered laughter where others felt doubt. His gentle humor softened harsh moments, turning fear into something manageable. Jake's calm presence helped shape the emotional stability of those around him. This presence is the foundation of his legacy, a quiet influence that persists beyond any single moment. One of the strongest branches of Jake's legacy grows through Finn. Their bond is one of the defining relationships in the series. Finn's growth into maturity, independence, and emotional awareness is shaped heavily by Jake's support. Jake teaches Finn how to navigate the world without imposing a rigid structure. He guides through companionship rather than control. The stability Jake provides becomes a core part of who Finn becomes. Finn's courage, empathy, and ability to find meaning in difficulty are strengthened by Jake's example. In Finn, Jake's influence continues long after specific adventures end. Jake's legacy also flows through his partnership with Lady Rainicorn. Their relationship stands as one of the most grounded and emotionally healthy connections in the show. It is not marked by dramatic turmoil or sweeping declarations. Instead, it thrives on consistency, affection, and shared understanding. Their love shows that relationships can flourish through patience, respect, and the gentle acceptance of each other's worlds. This relationship becomes a model of cross-cultural connection in U, showing that emotional harmony is possible even when two beings come from very different backgrounds. The family Jake builds with Lady Rainicorn deepens his legacy in ways that extend beyond his own lifetime. Their children inherit aspects of both lineages, symbolizing unity where history once held division. The long-standing tension between dogs and rainicorns dissolves through the existence of a family built on love. Jake's willingness to embrace this blended identity creates a new story in U, one that speaks of reconciliation, future possibility, and the healing power of relationships. His children carry forward not only his magic, but his emotional wisdom. They are his living imprint on the world. Jake's legacy appears not only in the people closest to him, but in the community of U at large. Jake interacts with many groups and individuals across the land. In each meeting, his energy remains consistent. He brings warmth without expectation. He offers help without demanding recognition. His approachability invites friendship from beings who might otherwise keep their guard high. He treats everyone with the same underlying respect, whether they are royalty or monsters or wanderers. This universal kindness builds a reputation for Jake that extends far beyond the confines of any single journey. His humour becomes part of this legacy. Not the loud, comedic spectacle of a performer, but the gentle, comforting humour of someone who understands how to lift the weight of a difficult moment. Jake's jokes are often simple, sometimes strange, and always heartfelt. They disarm fear, soften conflict, and create connection. His humour becomes a tool for healing. Long after specific jokes are forgotten, the feeling they created remains. That feeling becomes part of Jake's emotional footprint. Jake's legacy also appears in how he handles responsibility. Though he often presents himself as laid-back and easygoing, he has never failed to step forward when needed. He protects those he loves with a quiet courage rooted in devotion rather than ego. When danger threatens, Jake contributes not with fanfare, but with steady determination. He does not seek glory in battle. He simply wants to keep people safe. His willingness to act without seeking recognition becomes a silent testament to his character. His moral approach adds another layer to this legacy. Jake's worldview focuses on empathy, forgiveness, and balance. He does not push others to follow his beliefs. Instead, he embodies them through action. He shows that kindness is not weakness, that patience is not passivity, and that trust can be a powerful guiding force. These values ripple outward into the world. The people around him learn through his example. His emotional choices create a subtle cultural influence in U, shaping how others interact with each other. Jake's shape-shifting abilities also contribute to his legacy, though not in the way one might expect. While many magical beings in U assert their power through spectacle, Jake uses his magic with gentleness. He applies it to protect loved ones, entertain children, create comfort, and bring joy to others. His magic becomes an extension of his kindness, rather than a symbol of dominance. In this way, Jake models a form of power that is compassionate and humble. This modelling influences how other magical beings view their own abilities, emphasizing empathy over ego. Jake's legacy also rests in the emotional lessons he offers without ever framing them as lessons. He teaches that identity does not need to be rigid. He teaches that love can unfold naturally. He teaches that time moves whether or not we resist it, so it is better to move with it. He teaches that emotions become lighter when handled gently. He teaches that presence matters more than perfection. These truths settle into the hearts of those around him, shaping their emotional development long after Jake leaves a scene. Another quiet part of Jake's legacy lies in his willingness to let people grow. He does not cling to outdated versions of those he cares about. He accepts emotional evolution without resistance. Finn, Lady Rainicorn, and his children all grow in ways that differ from Jake's own trajectory. He embraces each version of them as they come. His acceptance creates an environment where growth feels safe. This nurturing attitude allows the people in his life to find their own paths without fear of disappointing him. Jake's presence in U also shows that gentleness can exist in a world filled with chaos, magic, and danger. His emotional steadiness becomes a reminder that peace can be cultivated even when external circumstances are unpredictable. Jake does not dismiss the existence of darkness or conflict. but he refuses to let them define his worldview. His calmness becomes a subtle, cultural anchor. People who interact with him are reminded that they can choose softness, even when the world feels sharp. Jake's legacy as a friend is equally significant. He does not treat friendship as a series of obligations, but as an extension of his heart. His connections with characters like Marceline, Princess Bubblegum, Bimo, and others reflect his ability to create genuine bonds across different personalities and histories. He does not shy away from emotionally complex individuals. He meets them with openness and humour. His friendships grow through mutual trust rather than dependence or control. In doing so, he shows that friendship can be a long-lasting source of healing. Jake's legacy becomes especially powerful because it is so natural. He never sets out to create it. He never once tries to shape how people will remember him. His legacy forms because of who he is, not because of anything he does to earn praise. It grows through consistency, authenticity, and the quiet confidence of someone who accepts himself fully. This self-acceptance may be the deepest root of Jake's legacy. Characters in often struggle with their identity, their mistakes, or their purpose. Jake stands as a counterpoint to this conflict. He embodies the idea that being at peace with oneself allows one to bring peace to others. His legacy is not about triumph, but about harmony. Not about conquering, but about connecting. Jake also leaves behind emotional tools that others use long after he has taught them unintentionally. Finn learns patience. Lady Rainicorn experiences emotional ease. His children inherit curiosity and acceptance. His friends carry forward the comfort of his presence. Even those who meet him briefly remember the warmth he brings. Jake's legacy continues through the stories others tell after adventures end. Not grand tales of battles won, but small recollections of moments he made lighter, problems he helped soften, or joys he amplified. These stories survive because they arise from experiences that feel deeply human, even in a fantastical world. Jake's legacy becomes a reminder that emotional intelligence can shape a landscape just as meaningfully as magic or heroism. In the end, Jake's legacy is emotional architecture, invisible yet foundational, quiet yet enduring. His presence in shapes hearts more than histories. His influence creates a world where softness can thrive, where patience matters, and where love is expressed through simple acts of being there. Jake teaches that legacies do not need to be loud to last. They can live in the comfort you leave behind in others. Jake leaves a legacy of warmth in a world that could have easily grown cold. Through him, becomes a gentler place, not because he changed its landscape, but because he changed how people felt within it. That emotional imprint remains long after any adventure ends. Jake the dog contains multitudes. His life in is full of magic, humour, calmness, and adventure. But beneath all of that lies something far richer. Jake is an emotional ecosystem, a tapestry woven from flexibility, kindness, intuition, and steady love. His emotional blueprint is not defined by a single trait. It is the result of many subtle qualities that interact gently with one another, forming a complete portrait of a being who understands life in a way that feels both simple and profound. This final chapter brings those strands together. It explores how Jake's emotional qualities blend into a unified identity and how this integration shapes the world around him. It looks at the essence of Jake's spirit, the softness at his core, and the wisdom he embodies without ever claiming to be wise. Jake lives with a grace that feels almost accidental, yet it touches everyone who crosses his path. To understand Jake holistically, one must begin with his inner peace. Jake does not force himself into coherence. He naturally settles into it. His emotional stability comes from a deep acceptance of himself. He does not wrestle with internal battles about who he should be. He lives in harmony with who he already is, trusting that growth arrives in its own time. This acceptance allows him to move through life without harshness. It frees him to be present, to be sincere, and to be steady. This inner peace interacts with Jake's flexibility, both physical and emotional. His ability to stretch mirrors his willingness to adapt. Whether he is navigating danger, supporting a friend, caring for his family, or facing internal uncertainty, Jake adjusts gracefully. He does not rigidly cling to an image of himself or a fixed way of living. He allows himself to change shape. This adaptability protects his emotional world from becoming brittle. It gives him the capacity to meet challenges gently rather than resist them. Jake's humor enters the synthesis as another crucial part of his identity. His jokes are not mere entertainment. They are emotional tools. Humor helps him dissolve tension, nurture connection, and comfort others. It helps him handle his own feelings with lightness. Jake's playfulness is not a distraction from emotional depth. It is a way of making emotional depth livable. His laughter holds sadness safely. His silliness gives fear space to soften. Humor becomes the bridge between his inner peace and his ability to share that peace with others. His empathy forms another piece of the whole. Jake understands others through intuition rather than analysis. He reads emotional energy with subtle accuracy. He knows when someone needs comfort, space, encouragement, or silence. This intuition allows him to support others in ways that feel personal and gentle. He does not need long speeches. He offers emotional understanding through presence. His empathy is quiet but powerful, shaping how he interacts with the world. Jake's loyalty sits beside his empathy as one of his most defining traits. Once he loves someone, he stands beside them with unwavering steadiness. His loyalty is not loud or ceremonial. It is woven into everyday behaviors. He listens, protects, encourages, and celebrates the people in his life. His loyalty makes him a stabilizing force in someone others can rely on during uncertainty. This constancy deepens his relationships and strengthens his emotional impact. His spirituality, though subtle, completes the inward dimension of his identity. Jake approaches life with a sense of acceptance that borders on the spiritual. He trusts the flow of time, the unfolding of events, and the emotional rhythms that shape existence. He does not fear mystery. He does not demand certainty. This faith in life's natural movement gives him an unshakable calm. It allows him to enter each moment without resistance. This spiritual openness guides every interaction he has. When these traits combine, Jake becomes a figure of unusual emotional harmony. His presence brings balance to others, not because he tries to be a guide, but because his essence gently radiates peace. His emotional vocabulary includes humor, intuition, loyalty, curiosity, and acceptance. These elements create a character who embodies emotional maturity without effort. Jake models a way of living that is soft yet strong, relaxed yet responsible, playful yet wise. Jake's influence on Finn showcases the integration of his emotional qualities in action. Finn grows through hardship, heartbreak, confusion, and profound change. Jake supports him in each stage, offering humor when Finn feels overwhelmed, calmness when Finn feels panicked, and companionship when Finn feels lost. Jake's presence gives Finn the space to grow without feeling pressured. Finn becomes braver, kinder, and more emotionally aware because Jake creates an environment where growth feels safe. This impact is not one-directional. Finn also enriches Jake's emotional world. Their relationship becomes a circle of mutual nurturing. Jake's bond with Lady Rainicorn highlights another facet of his integrated emotional identity. Their partnership thrives because Jake brings balance. He meets Lady Rainicorn's emotional depth with steady affection and intuitive understanding. Their relationship is not marked by grand gestures. It grows through daily acts of love, shared comfort, and mutual trust. Jake's ease harmonizes with her expressive nature, creating a relationship that feels grounding. Their family is built on this foundation, reflecting a union of emotional steadiness and magical diversity. Fatherhood reveals the final expression of Jake's emotional synthesis. When Jake becomes a father, his emotional traits take on deeper significance. His flexibility allows him to adjust to the unpredictable pace of magical childhood. His humor becomes a tool for bonding. His empathy helps him tune into each child's needs. His acceptance allows him to let them grow without fear. His love becomes both protective and freeing. Parenthood transforms his emotional blueprint from personal philosophy into a living legacy. Jake's identity as a magical being weaves through this synthesis in subtle ways. His physical transformations symbolize the emotional adaptability that defines him. Magic becomes both metaphor and reality. It allows him to express emotion physically, to solve problems creatively, and to nurture relationships in playful ways. His magic enhances his emotional traits rather than overshadowing them. It becomes another tool for connection. Jake's resilience becomes clear when viewed from the whole. He does not shatter under grief. He does not crumble under fear. He does not avoid discomfort. He moves with emotions, letting them pass without letting them define him. His resilience is not stoic hardness. It is fluid endurance. Like a river flowing around rocks, Jake finds paths through emotional challenges without losing his essence. This resilience becomes part of his legacy, teaching others how to live with softness without losing strength. His relationship with time reinforces this resilience. Jake sees time as a companion rather than a threat. He does not cling to the past or fear the future. He experiences life in the present, trusting that whatever arrives can be handled with calmness and humor. This temporal acceptance supports his emotional flexibility. It keeps him from becoming overwhelmed. It allows him to savor what he loves without fearing its loss. Jake's emotional blueprint, when synthesized, reveals something important. His qualities are not separate. They are interconnected. His humor supports his intuition. His intuition supports his loyalty. His loyalty supports his calmness. His calmness supports his resilience. His resilience supports his spirituality. His spirituality supports his love. Jake's emotional world operates as an ecosystem, each part feeding and strengthening the others. This integrated identity shapes his larger legacy in U. People remember Jake not because he commanded armies or altered history through force, but because he made their lives better. He softened the emotional weight of those around him. He reminded them that joy matters. He taught them that peace is possible. He offered companionship in a world that oscillates between chaos and beauty. His legacy is carried in the hearts he touched. Jake's holistic emotional identity also reveals something about the nature of goodness. Goodness does not always come from heroic deeds. Sometimes it comes from kindness, from openness, from the willingness to love without condition. Jake demonstrates that emotional wisdom is a form of strength. It is not loud, but it is enduring. His goodness shapes U quietly, the way roots shape the earth beneath a forest. In this synthesis, Jake stands as a rare character whose emotional blueprint is both wide and deep. He is playful yet profound, relaxed yet responsible, magical yet grounded. His emotional intelligence is woven into everything he does, forming a portrait of a being who understands how to live with grace. Jake teaches that life does not require mastery of every challenge. It requires presence, it requires connection, it requires openness to change. Jake lives these lessons instinctively. Others learn from him simply by being near him. His identity becomes a soft beacon in a world that often feels unpredictable. At the center of Jake's whole emotional blueprint lies one simple truth. He loves easily, not carelessly, but with sincerity. His love flows into friendships, family, adventure, home, and self-acceptance. This love shapes his humor, his loyalty, his calmness, and his intuition. Love is the quiet current running through his entire life. Jake's emotional synthesis reveals that the most profound characters are not always the most dramatic. They are often the ones who offer comfort, stability, and warmth. Jake holds the emotional universe of Ooh together in ways that cannot be measured through battles or victories. He holds it through presence, through softness, through being someone others can trust. In the end, Jake the dog stands as one of the most emotionally complete beings in Adventure Time. His blueprint shows the beauty of balance, the power of calm, the strength of empathy, the resilience of humor, the depth of love, and the quiet wisdom that comes from accepting life as it is. Jake's emotional world is a reminder that peace is not passive. It is intentional, it is practiced, it is lived moment by moment, choice by choice. Through Jake, we see how emotional intelligence can transform a life into something gentle, meaningful, and deeply connected. And that is the whole of Jake, a being whose heart stretches even farther than his magic ever could.